Got yeah. Everyone, welcome back to Planet X Films, also streaming on Fed Up today as well with our guest and friend Loren W. Lepre from notable films such as Terrifier 2, Pennsylvania Hardcore, 900 million points for that because Loren likes the same music as me, so that's yay, awesome. And of course, the new sequel to Dark Military, The Dark Military Rogue, which we're going to get into. Ross, do you just want to drop just an update for us quickly and take us off?
Yeah, mostly just returning to the show once again. He's been on the audio show with us many times. Writer, actor, director Loren Lepre. I'm sure we'll have some old retro wrestling questions for him. We'll have some music questions for him. This guy's been all over the map of the Pennsylvania hardcore scene. We are streaming a multi-cast, as Gaz said. So today we're live on youtube.com/planetxfilm, as well as Gaz's channel Fed Up, as well as the Fed Up Vodcast on Twitch. We want to make sure that everybody goes over to Loren's channel and subscribes to Average Superstar Films. First things first, and then you're going to
Average Superstar TV. But
excuse me.
Thank you. yeah.
Average Superstar TV channel. We'll have the link in the description. Go subscribe. Awesome. Yeah. You want to check out Dark Military Rogue. That's what you want to do when you go over there. You want to drop some likes on Loren's stuff. Also an amazing film podcast and upkeep with everything Loren does in the horror world. So we've got our chief horror correspondent with us, Loren Lepre. I don't even know where you guys want to start. I mean, first things first, I want to make sure people go over to Tubi and check out the original Dark Military feature film, indie film. If I'm not mistaken, that was the first indie feature that you helmed, Loren?
Yeah, it is. Also on Tubi, you can watch Pennsylvania Hardcore there too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Get them both. Both.
Yep.
So, anyway, should our audience care, we're down to review the Dark Military full feature and as well as Rogue. I'm definitely going to have some behind-the-scenes questions for you. We usually have a strict no-spoiler policy, Loren, but it's been out for a few days.
It's out. I kind of look at, maybe I'll dance around a few things, but, we don't have to exactly. It's out. I wanted it in time for Halloween, and I did. So, it's a YouTube video. It's
Sure.
I call it Mission 1.5 for a reason. It's kind of taking place between 1 and Part 2, which even though I've yet to make Part 2, but I just kind of wanted to get the juices flowing, people interest, and also kind of do a sizzle reel, the first movie. So in case anyone's really into Rogue, they can be like, what the hell did I just watch? Let me go back and check that, so.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a nice, as you said, intermission, isn't it? Setting it up for Part 2. Really is. So folks, let's jump straight into the Dark Military Rogue. As you said, Loren, you have that nice recap of what happened in the first feature. And what I initially noticed and what I really liked is how it's turning on one of the members from the Dark Military from the original as well. That was quite cool because I remember when we talked about the first movie a few years ago on the radio show myself and Ross used to do, and I was excited to hear about this and obviously see it, but I wasn't expecting, honestly, even from the title, I wasn't expecting it to be turned on one of those members from the original team. So I thought that was a really nice way to garner that further interest as well. So you must have had fun doing that.
Oh, it was fun. It was everything I do as far as film is there's never I got an idea. We got the money and we're shooting 6 weeks from now. It's a no. I will calculate, will plan. You're trying to find a way to make sure everybody's taken care of, but you are trying to cut every little expense you possibly could. Yet you're trying to make sure everybody's fed. Yet you're trying to have the right cast there. And what I mean by the right cast, I've kind of said this on other shows with you can't just pick, and for me, my strategy, you just can't pick what you're going to think possibly could be the best actors, because when they're off camera, if they're hanging by themselves and they're explosive personalities, something could happen off set, and then it comes back on the set, and what's going on with this tension here and stuff. So you kind of got to think about who you're bringing into your set. Will they gel? Because movies, face it, it's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
So people got to be able to get along. So I know you guys, and probably everybody listening, has groups of friends that you love them both, but this group and this group can never be invited to the same party because the party is going to go south. Because I always say, but that's another big thing, and I'm very big. What I did with the first movie, where I took people, we're all staying over on this location. Like, I don't want you to leave. I will feed you. I'm going to feed you really well. Yeah, I'll take care of you. But we went in the middle of nowhere, like in the Poconos, is where we filmed this one. Like, I wanted everybody, like, there's no fun. We got a 2-day mission here. So we did it one weekend. A great host, a great house we had, a great private land where we could be loud as we want, do anything we want. The surrounding houses close by were family members, so they knew everything we were doing, paid no attention to the screaming. We could shoot all night. That's a big thing when you shoot outside. If there's neighbors, I mean, they by law could get you stopped. They could be like, there's a noise ordinance, or that light's coming through my child's window, and my child can't sleep. Like, you gotta know. So.
Yeah. Well, Loren unpacked a lot right there. I have a bunch of like follow-up questions for that. Of course, the behind the scenes and the filmmaking aspect is always the most interesting to me. And I asked you a lot about that in Dark Military 1. I just want to go with what I expected from Rogue based off how you ended Dark Military 1. You know, it was an extreme escalation of violence and things were about to pop off at the end of 1. So when you came in with this one-off, transitional chapter semi-sequel, as you said, I expected it to just be like an extreme, like run and gun, I thought because I expected it to be like a condensed short. So I thought like, oh, he's going to make it as bloody as possible and all this and that. And you actually came from a completely different angle that I didn't expect, which was like a lot more background to the Dark Military universe, which is what Gaz alluded to there. And I thought that was the most useful thing you could have done plot-wise, because although you didn't actually explain anything, you breadcrumbed all these things. Now we hinted around that there's way more than just, the online dark web game and the whole, circus aspect of it all. What I especially liked was the communication with the general. His yes or no, green light, red light answers. That I thought that was genius.
Thank you.
Came across perfectly, exactly how you wanted it to. And then what struck out to me most of all, which was a very short reference, I think you guys only made it once or twice, was that of the Archangels, enemy faction to the Dark Military. And I'm like, okay, now you got my full attention, because if this manifests into 2 or whatever,
we're leading into some big things going on in the sequels. Maybe there's another group the general has that maybe he's got this group over here to make trouble, and maybe those groups don't like each other, guys. So.
Loved it. That was my favorite thing you introduced in the whole short. And sorry for the spoiler, guys. But anyway, if anyone's got any issues, you can just pause this interview right now. It's going to be on demand, and when we're complete, go over to Loren's channel, watch Dark Military Rogue, and you can come back and listen.
That's it, folks. Hit pause here, like he said. Go watch it. It's 23 minutes, and come back and press play and keep going.
If we really hurt your feelings that badly by talking plot elements, you have full control over your browser and computer. You can simply pause and play over there.
And in that time, I probably still won't have finished one sentence in the 23 minutes either. So you'll time it just right. But I think what is interesting as well, Ross and Loren, is, as I said, because this turns it on one of the members who are in the Dark Military, it also shows that this guy meets a beautiful lady, marries her, is happy and everything. And it shows that he also is now fragile. There's that vulnerability. We'd seen this obviously well-trained group, very menacing, and now one of them, the tables have turned. Now he is a vulnerable one. He is now feeling what those people felt in the first film, and his first concern is, please don't do anything to my wife. Please leave my wife alone. And I just thought that was a very interesting twist. Definitely, yes, we're talking the general. With the bulbs as well. That was awesome, added in that nice little atmosphere. And and I'm not insulting you here, Loren, either, because the direction that Marvel has gone in, that I now nickname Fartville because of the lack of quality. Yeah,
I was one of the first person. We could sit there all day. I was one of the first people off the Marvel wagon. I loved it like everybody else, but I guess I'm the guy that I get bored easy.
Yeah, I was right behind you. I was a huge fan.
I was so happy, I guess, for a good 10 years. But once it was like, I'm a good guy, I got superpower. Oh, there's a bad guy. The bad guy beats him up and says, well, there's these other good guys over here. Go hang out with them. And then they gang up and they kill the bad guy. And then post credits, super bad guy goes, oh, did you beat my friend up? Next movie. And that was it. That was every Marvel movie.
It's going to be an origin story. It's going to give the background of how they get their power. At some point in the plot, they're going to lose their power, so they'll be unable to defend themselves. If you watch like Honest trailers or Cinema Sins, they go in on those tropes. And just,
my favorite
plot every time.
Yeah, my favorite like TV YouTube channel is Movie Pitch. He's my favorite guy.
Yeah, I love that guy. I love that guy because a man. He's the man. Right. He's the man. That dude is the man.
And it's funny because when you watch that, even movies that you love that you never ever thought, you're like, oh no, now I can't.
It's one of them. It's one of them.
Shows how you overlook something. But the reason I reference Marvel, because Rogue and the Dark Military kind of reminds me of one of the Punisher series, led by. Oh, it has like Deadpool, Agent Venom. This
is
kind
this
of black.
Show or a comic book?
No, it was a comic from about probably 6 years ago, just before I feel Marvel started to drop in quality, both in film and the books.
Okay,
and they were kind of like an off the radar Black Ops team. Did a lot of grimy, dirty, nasty operations, and the people in there weren't particularly nice. All of them either didn't like each other too, and the Rogue had me kind of thinking as that as well, particularly with the general, how he was communicating. I thought this reminds me of that team. It might be the Punishables, is it? Possibly. I wouldn't care. The books are not that far from me either. So
usually every film director has some sort of like, well, in this movie, I kind of do some tributes to. Yeah. I had nothing for this one. This was honestly just was in my head. I think the biggest problem with horror movies was, and still is, was when John Carpenter introduced Michael Myers. He did the first two films. Sean S. Cunningham introduces Friday the 13th. He does the first four films. Like myself at Dark Military, we know the character. We know what the character does and not does. The second Sean S. Cunningham and John Carpenter sold those franchises, in came writers that do not know the property, and off the rails we go.
Clive Barker with Hellraiser, take a reference.
Yeah. And that's how Michael Myers dies on the kitchen prep table. That was written. Hollywood approved that script. That happened, folks. We can't unsee that. Yeah. He lost a fight. Michael Myers lost a fight in a sewer to an emo kid and got his mask taken. And yet there's people in chat rooms saying who would win, Freddy or Jason? Like, well, I could beat Michael Myers up. That kid could beat up Michael Myers up.
Anyone can.
Yeah. So
even though he got shot point blank with a shotgun in the chest and survived somehow, there's
and got beat up in a group gang fight where the previous movie.
Yeah.
Where no one had guns, by the way. They're gonna lynch the killer in town. No one had guns but you know what I'm saying. That's so when I write these films, I know the character, because I have a lot of people say, like, they give me ideas. They're like, it'd be kind of clever, and I'd be like, when they're done, I'm like, cool, some cool, and others I'm like, you don't know this character at all. I'm sorry, like, I appreciate that you're a fan, but like you don't, like, like everyone's like. There was so many people that said like my character should break down at one point and say how I was molested, and that's how why I'm mad at the world. I'm like, well, that's a pretty big receipt he's doing to the world, because no.
Yeah. That's exactly what you were talking about with the big budget Hollywood. As you said, Marvel just made 50 films on origin stories of superheroes. So now, and then they made, we were talking about that with Caesar Gaz, how they made the Han Solo origin movie, which is something you're never supposed to see. All these characters have these legendary origins you've created for yourself. you don't want to see it play out as a linear narrative on screen.
And I truly think, like, I was always one of them. I thought the character was overrated. I did, but like, I got why we were drawn to him. But we know too much about Boba Fett now, and the mystique's gone.
Mm-hmm.
We like it's over.
There you go. So,
yeah.
So now it's conditioning the audience for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's no end to it, because I do get the sense coming out of Hollywood that they are stuck for ideas, and why they're recycling everything, rebooting. We've talked about this in past shows with you, Loren. Yep. So anything they think, oh yeah, this can put a fresh take. Oh yeah, we'll do a spin-off series. You know, I know there was a dog in episode 5, so we'll do the origin of the dog.
You're right, and they're so like, I won't watch it, and people get mad. Like, you got to give it a shot. I'm like, I don't. I saw the whole movie in the trailer. I'm not watching that Exorcist film.
I've heard it's gotten skewered. I've seen some roasts. It's gotten zipped up.
It just looks completely forced. I didn't to top it off. Like, I don't hold The Exorcist just as like a horror film. I look at it one of the top 50 greatest American films ever made. And like being drawn, it was shot on 35 millimeter, and I'll always. I will always have that feeling when he actually shows up at the house in that scene, you know, that infamous poster scene. He walks in, and from upstairs, it starts yelling like, I know you're there, and I ain't scared of you. And like, there's 3 demons. There's only one. No, I think there's 3. I love that. Like that cinema sends goosebumps up. It ain't the fear. It's like, this is just good. This is good American cinema.
I think it's it's classic cinema making, as you said, but then there's also like the suspense, the pacing. There's all, you know, it's like when they get everything right into the full picture, so to speak, as you said.
There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Not to go super political. There's too much wokeness going on where when it's forced, it's completely and it is forced. Everything's forced. When I feel there's a piece of paper when I'm watching something like, Lord, do you see this? Yep, because this is the new way. You know that's right. You're gonna check the box. It's like, no. So this is why, like,
cookie cutter, as you said, you know.
This is why I don't really watch practically nothing. I watch Yellowstone. Nothing woke about that. And I watch I watch Yellow Jackets, which there's wokeness in it, but I'm just in because it's such a different style of a TV show.
I heard that's good. I have not seen that.
It's very good. You're not getting either one of them with the strike going on for a while. You're not getting anything for a while.
Right. Oh yeah. Very true.
Maybe they come back with some good ideas.
Nice one, guys. Hilarious.
So you're down to too many producers in the room. I think there's a lot of things I just think you guys should watch what was he on? Rob Zombie was on. I didn't even know he had a podcast. I recently saw a Howie Mandel's podcast where he talked about dealing with the evil Weinsteins and during that movie, the stuff they were saying to him in between, you just don't know. Like, these people are just out of their mind. I'm not just talking them to everybody.
I've heard a lot of stories about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's like
I follow a lot of behind the scenes like you. I was just watching an interview with David Ayer on John Bernthal's Real Ones, and he's like, "What is like the one that got away from you?" And he's like, "Well, it's Suicide Squad because the way it's pitched is like low budget, hard R, you know, this almost like a dark military aspect, so to speak, not to draw too many, overarching, big studio parallels because it's clearly none. But I think what you would have got, like, he basically talked about his director's cut, and Bernthal was like, could you ever release it? And he's like, yeah, but there's a lot of politics. But it's supposed to be the version of the film that we were promised, with not like the scaled back, corny PG-13 kind of, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And this happens. Even Tom Hardy was saying this about Venom 1. They were like, "Hey, what's your favorite part?" And his answer, like, this is hilarious when a lead actor gives this response in an interview. I think you'll agree with me, Loren. He's like, "Oh, all my favorite parts got cut out of the final cut." So he's like, I don't really like any of it, That's Tom Hardy. He's a huge name,
And that was what Sony owned that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like an offshoot of the.
So there was too many people from Sony saying we got to try to mirror Marvel and whatever way they did. I tried watching Venom. I couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
I turned it off.
Again, it was real quick, guys. It was another thing where how Suicide Squad was pitched to us, a micro budget, darker indie style studio film, a hard R, blah, blah, blah. By the time the final cut cuts out, you get none of that. Same thing with Venom. For some reason, and I will get back to Loren stuff, guys. For some reason, Sony was circulating like the rumor that they were going to do Venom hard R. And it's like, we all know you're not. You're going to get stuck into the Marvel cookie cutter format of the PG-13 abomination, which is what they cut out. They cut out 45 minutes of the most violent scene, and what you got was what you got. Now, I don't give any bad on like Tom Hardy because I still like most of his stuff, but I'm man, that was the one I wanted to see pan out with the good actor.
I think once too you brought in for the second one, which I got through about 40 minutes. And I turned that off too. Like
we roasted it here on PXF.
My dream was always to see Spider-Man fight Venom, fight Carnage, and I think Carnage you have to go rated R. Like you just have to let it go, and even pitch like, parents, this one might not be. You have
Joker,
to do that.
Like Joker, Todd Phillips' Joker is a hard R. Like that's when DC went right. That's when DC went right.
They did.
Did you have something, guys?
I was just going to say it's too much oversaturation, and then instead of trying to focus on their own property, it's let's emulate Marvel. Many years ago, when you first come on the show with me and Ross, and it was around the time I believe Disney had got the rights to Star Wars from George Lucas. We were all saying, oh, yeah, we might see all of these great movies now. And I remember you saying at the time, Loren, they'll exploit this. You'll get spin-offs even like Luke sat in the desert at Burning Man, etc. Now, all those years later, you're right, man. 100% That's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, because the Marvel writers were they were taking notes. What did Loren say? Burning this?
I swear, I don't like pulling that like I could predict, but a lot of the things I could do. I just, especially when I hear something like who got in charge, it's like I feel I know them. I'm like, this is what this person's going to try to do. Or you hear what they're tied to, like what what political department might get in, be like, make sure we see some of this, okay? Make sure we see some of that. And you're just like, now once you take this and that, now the fans that love this product are like, what am I watching? What just happened here? Like
it gets away from the mythos and the core concept.
It does get away from the spirit and essence of it.
About horror,
So with that said, sorry, go on, Loren.
And this is why I swear, like a lot of indie filmmakers as yourselves. It's usually one or two guys or a couple. Average Superstar Films is run by me only. I answer to no. I will gladly ask people for certain advice. Be like, I'm a little stumped here. How can I get from point A to point B? I'll take their advice, but I don't like having to have to listen to someone, especially if I'm putting, which is a lot of what I've done, put my own money in.
Sure.
I don't want a second boss. Like I feel strongly when I put a story together, if I'm going to kick out the money myself or almost all of it, I've had so many people say like, hey, you should bring me aboard, and be like, cool. What you bringing in with me? They're like, whoa, I'd be like creative control. I'd be like, oh, so you want me to hire you and I could step aside and pay? No.
And you take you run. I passed the baton to you for my IP that I created. That's not how any of this works.
So what I'm really trying to do with this Dark Military, like I literally got up to like 4 chapters in my head, and I also got this Rogue thing kind of has me making some more side stories just to always keep the product fresh, and it's different, and that's why. Not that this is a spoiler in any way, but when it says the credits come up after that minute sizzle reel, it says Dark Military, Rogue, and it says Mission 1.5. That was kind of to tell the audience, like, that's different. So this is like a side? Yes, this is a side. This is a side story.
No, and I loved about that, and I also love how you weren't super clear that it was going to be a side story in the promo. It was just, you kind of promoted it, in my opinion, as just the next chapter. So I really didn't find that out until we got in. I thought that was clever promotion.
And I looked at if they're a fan of what I do, they're going to watch it. They can find out then,
100%. You're going to tell everything in advance,
There are some people that would say to me like, oh, dude, you went from a feature to a short. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, they're nothing. Like don't begrudge me what I'm doing, man. Stop it.
Yeah. Thank you. Point me in the right direction, guys. So I mean, Loren brought a couple follow-ups real quick, like how you said like you're able to predict things. Like I don't think it's become that difficult with the cookie cutter.
Certainly
not. You can see what's coming down the pipeline, like Gaz said with the reboot pool machine. Just like when DC was trying to copy the MCU with the Snyderverse, like we all knew that it wasn't the right way to go, but we all knew that was going to happen. You know what I mean? It just I
don't know if you were just going for knocking the Snyder universe or something, but I love that 4 hour. That was the
it was good. I watched it. Yeah, it was good.
I wish they really that he is the prime example. Not Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel came out fine, and I really enjoy that character. But when you get like the Batman versus Superman, I have a little bit of I stick up for the film more. As I mean, I like it, but I cannot stick up for its flaws. But that was clearly too many studio heads jumping in and being like,
100%.
Do this. Yeah, they killed a fight, which was a dumbest idea I've ever heard in cinema history. That's not a fight, guys.
Yeah, it's just
a guy who can destroy the whole planet in a second does not lose to a guy, a human.
Right. And there's no standard of power levels, you know what I mean? And but anyway, now I do prefer Snyder. I do prefer DC, as we said about Joker earlier. I feel DC's more willing to take the chance on the R ratings, which. Let's keep it real. When's the last time we seen that for Marvel? They say Deadpool 3, but that's their first R after the acquisition.
But my criticism there with Deadpool is if you took the humor away, would they take the same chance? I don't think Marvel would, because the comedy's there. That's why they do it.
Yep. Yeah, it's action comedy. So, but anyway, just to get back to Loren's work, when you dropped the Dark Military Rogue teaser trailer, I thought you did a really good job of offering a glimpse into the short, but not giving anything away. And I'm sure we both have the same criticism you said earlier. I hate seeing a movie in the trailer.
Thank you. I really just want to do something that would intrigue people, because in reality, you're 2 minutes in a house and then what happens. So like I didn't want to show any pictures of what's taking place outside, because that's a dead like, oh, okay, so someone's having a bad day. I wonder what that is. So I really wanted to just. And by the way, the gunshots were actually real gunshots. Yeah, because we're in the middle of nowhere, so there were people in their backyard. We were counting. We literally heard 300 bullets through the weekend. So it was like, I think people just drink and shoot at beer cans out there.
Yeah. It's safe for us to fire a few rounds.
I'm from.
So when they were walking the door, like we're all smiling while we're looking through the lens. Like I'm like, I ain't cutting. This actually helps. Like, what are they out there killing somebody?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even know that level of authenticity, but my next comment was about to be almost an added layer of realism too, because as you said, when you wake up in that moment and you're in the situation that you're in, we won't say what it is, you really don't know anything until you go outside and look. Like, the silence is going to be unnerving, and you're like, oh wait, my whoever family member should be out there, whatever, but you don't know what's going on until you get out there. So I don't know what you call that, maybe a bit of a first person perspective or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't want to rush it. Originally I wanted it just to be 15 minutes. And then when I started putting them together, I'm like, we're going to be past. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, well, I'm not cutting back anything. Like, I don't, it's for YouTube and whoever wants it. Like, it's literally like take it, upload it to your page. I don't care. So, there's some more horror movie outlets pages about to upload it, but we're in the week of Halloween and it's a very busy time. But do I wish there could have been a few more outlets currently? But they're coming. They're coming. There's some of them have it. They're like, oh my God, it's freaking great. But there's a chain of command of other movies I got there before mine. So, there's going to be other uploads and stuff. So,
I mean, I consider throwing it on PXF for you guys. It's just like I'm getting close to the 9, so I'm about to monetize. So obviously I don't want to monetize your work, but I'm pretty sure there's an option I could just
it wouldn't phase me, dude. When you put a movie on YouTube, you're not looking to make money. You shouldn't be looking to make money.
Right, for sure.
So, this is all about, in reality, somewhat of a 23-minute movie trailer to intrigue you to watch the first one to get psyched for the second one.
So we should be safe then if on both channels we could put that in a playlist with the links and description just to help promo it.
Thank you.
Should be fine.
Make a new short film playlist.
All right, we'll do that for you. Yeah.
Thank you. And anyone else listening that wants to make a playlist, add the. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I also wanted the main views to go to like your channel too when you first got it up. So maybe after Halloween or something, and you've got like your initial run out.
Yeah, sure. But take
just as a backup, if you want to send me the main the core.
The main file, yes.
We'll get it. We'll get it up.
It was a 6K file because it was a 6K movie. Like the quality of the film is freaking tight.
No, for sure, man. That your camera's crazy. Like, I don't. Is that an improvement from Dark Military 1? I assume?
Yeah. Well, the first one was shot in 4K. It was shot on two red Scarlets. This was shot in a Red Dragon, but like we didn't really have 6K back then. So I was all pumped, and I beat my chest now because it's 6K. I can tell you.
It looked crispy, man.
I can tell all you out there, if you are not going to be the editor, maybe not shooting 6K because it's hard to find people that like will take that on. That is one.
I believe it.
Bump in the road. I was being flat forward on of like what I got done. I'm like, cool. I've been done up in 2 weeks. Everyone's like, oh shit, 6K. Yeah, I got to kick that back to you. 6K, I got to kick back. Or like, I could only work on it 2 hours a day, and I'm like, well, that's not how I work. That is the equivalent of sticking a doggy bowl to your dog and then pulling it away, and it's a Rottweiler. It ain't gonna work. Like, it ain't gonna work, man. So,
see, I mean, this is what's cool about Loren, guys. Like, he doesn't just like drop the short. It's like, yeah, it's 6K. Everything's perfect. Everything went fine, which is what a lot of people would do. Like, he actually tells you the challenges of the filmmaking process, of which there's many.
There was challenges in the first film. I gotta tell you, I had such a light staff for this. It was beautiful. I was looking at where we were staying. We were allowed to stay on site. So there was another house in addition where most of the cast stayed. But I kept looking at, too, is like for every person there, it's an extra mouth to feed, an extra person you got to pay, an extra person you got to watch over. So I was like, well, this seems pretty easy. The house is here. The location's here. I don't need any personal assistance. I'm right there. I will never do that again. I will never. It wasn't like a nightmare at all. I'm not telling you guys that, but I had moments where for 4 hours I'm just spinning. I'm like, this the stupidest thing with not the brag with the money I make in my real world job. Like, you made this cut. You took on this stupid burden just because you didn't want to pay one extra. You know,
for sure. Definitely do that. Yeah, you gotta have the PA. I mean, it's amazing, guys, because for like Gaz said, Gaz has a music relationship back when Loren dropped his Pennsylvania hardcore documentary, and I remember when you were showing us stuff when you had just like barely cameoed in some of these horror features, Christ Bearer and stuff. You were like a bouncer extra, and then I know you have a relationship with the Terrifier guys. That's awesome. I got to catch up on those because I know so it's Halloween in San Diego. We do Comic-Con here, and those are always a big deal. I saw like so many Terrifier masks and shirts, and like it's I know they set some crazy records with part 2, right? I think on Theater Run or whatever.
It's a movie budget for Terrifier 2 was $250K ish, and it made like $10 million at the box office. So I mean,
hit.
use basic math. What's that? 20 times or 40 times, something like that. Yeah. So that I was glad, and like. Yeah, I was just a DJ for like a second and a half there, but like it was kind of cool because my big contribute to the film was that was filmed mostly in Jersey, New York, but the final scene where Sienna fights Arts inside of that haunted house, they needed a location, and I got that, and I found that location, and so the final fight's in Philadelphia.
I knew you got them a set. I couldn't remember if that was Terrifier 1 or Terrifier 2.
No, I didn't know those guys at part 1. No one really did. Those were just
like indie out of nowhere, right?
Yep. And it's funny, they were filming in Trenton, which is kind of half hour from me. So if I knew them then, I would have went up and did whatever I could to help them there. But we didn't meet them. I didn't find out what Terrifier was until I was editing with my editor for the Dark Military, because I kind of tuned out everything, like my relation. I lost a lot of people in my life for the Dark Military, meaning like some of your closer friends, like they're still your friends, but you just never got re-tight because of that layoff of a year or two. But I just remember once in a while I would check Facebook and I kept seeing this damn clown. I'm like, what's that? Keep going.
I know Art blew up. Yeah.
Keep going. And finally, I'm like, what is this clown? I'm going to click on this damn thing and figure it out. And then I was like, all right. I was like, I guess they're setting in the bar, I'm like,
for sure.
So, when I was there, I think it was like 14, 15, 16 days I was on the movie set for part 2, which I think it was like 70 days. I wasn't at every location, so
sure. Yeah, no, but I know Art blew up as a character. They're calling him like one of the top, horror kind of iconic villains. But what I was saying before is when we were talking to Loren about this stuff when he was getting into filmmaking, and you had just kind of briefly cameoed in some of these horror projects, and then when you did Dark Military 1, I mean, you helmed that whole thing. You directed the entire cast, and I was like, dude, this guy really puts his money where his mouth is, because as the example Loren was just giving you guys was this Rogue was a much smaller set, private property. He opted to not have his personal assistant, which is a mistake Loren will never make again. But I was just thinking about how you were directing that entire cast, and we interviewed that on before for the whole set of Dark Military 1. I'm like, wow, this guy really took on a full feature, and it might not sound like much, guys, but doing, I think Loren would say doing is way more difficult. You can plan it, you can write it, you can do all that stuff, but showing up to set and running it is a totally different animal.
It is. And you know what? Like the first Dark Military, I mean, did we have some bumps? But for the most part, it flowed good. But there was a lot of things I took out of that film of like, this will never happen again. That'll never happen again. I think the biggest thing I took away with that, there's 2 things I took away from the first film, which I'm glad to pass on to everybody here is, how can I explain this? Everybody there, as far as the cast, was amazing, and they did their job. And I'm so glad they did what they did for me. But like almost all of them are just not social media toned. To when the trailer drops, you see 10 of them reposting the trailer, and you have a cast of 70. Yeah, we've got a problem.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know why you're not doing it. And when you talk to them, they're like, well, I'm going to. And then an hour later, they're posting a picture from TGI Fridays of their food.
Yeah.
So you just told me what was more important was this. So everybody knows you're eating this food that nobody cares about. So there's a lot of like that people like, listen, thank you again, over and over. You made my film, but we're not working together no more. Like I'm running. I'm a young guy, but I'm not that young, and I'm running out of time. That goes for like everybody that was close to me on any project. Period. Like I can't give you the keys to the car, and then I go outside and you're not even in the car yet. I will take the keys and I will drive it myself. I just can't sit still. I'm losing time here. I'd say another thing was the group I hired for the first Dark Military, we came to a price, and I saw the spreadsheet kind of after of who was getting paid and where money was spent, and I'm just like, we didn't need to spend that at all, like at all. And like this area over here, these people work for free. I could have threw money over towards that. I could have not spent it. I could have I kept it for marketing stuff,
promotional run.
Yeah, so I had too much on my plate in that first film to be worried about that. I just said, here's the team, here's the money. I'm running the talent and I'm running the show and getting the performance. That going forward, that's never. I am going to be everything. So for the second film, there's going to be a lot of personal like assistant directors with that, because like I'm taking every bit of that on. I mean, I had people buying stuff on the first Dark Military set, bringing food that I had covered. Like, hey, I donated. I'm bringing this. So, like, it's only another $200. I figured it'd feed everyone. I'm like, I got more than enough. Like, thank you. Like, here's two.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you to do this, but I love you. But you better perform tonight. But I didn't ask you to bring extra food. Like
budget is huge. Proper allocation. I mean,
it's just like, man, there's a lot. Or like, someone brought like an extra like equipment that I did not approve. I told you I can't afford it, but it's here anyway. And I'm like, and what are you going to do? You stop and start screaming at your team? You can't do that.
Stop what you're doing mid filming. No, it doesn't. Nothing.
Scream and then set the tone, and then you got to remember, folks. Like, this isn't SAG. This is indie. Someone can walk off your set, and you got a problem.
Right, missing a scene or whatever. So
yeah, like I always feel that a lot of filmmakers pull the whole. It was the greatest, and I knew what I was doing, and you should see it. But like, I have zero problem telling you, like, anybody can reach out to me at any point and be like, here's what I'm thinking of doing. Do you see any, you see any flaws, pitfalls you could call out before I may fall into them? Like, you let me know. Film festival, same stuff. Like, there's a lot of loneliness doing all this stuff. It really is, because like when things are hot, everybody loves you. When you're not doing anything, it's crickets.
Yeah,
100%.
So
yeah, and it's those personal sacrifices you have to make as well. You definitely want to ensure efficiency with what you described there, with people posting pictures of, say, TGI Fridays. It reminds me of the frustration, and you can relate to this as well with having that similar music taste and background to myself. It kind of reminded me of the frustration I had with the punk hardcore scene at a time, getting them to do things, or especially as they sometimes were too underground for their own good. Yes. And the music could be good, and I don't want to get this out there. And I'm like, I'm no longer going to be DIY. I'm going to sell out whatever. I'm like, it's okay to sell some albums, to have your music out there. And you've got to, and it relates as well, your answer relates to what you were saying earlier, that you're the one in charge. You're in control of everything. You want to see things run smoothly. You want the right people around you. You want them to do what obviously is required and is necessary to ensure that smooth operation. So no one's going to come in distorting your vision either. And sadly, there's too many people out there, I'm not saying everyone, who at times don't take things as seriously. Like you said, we'll do this, or we'll repost this. As you said, we can't wait around, because often you're working on so many things at once, and then that's another distraction another time. Like, I don't have time to keep reminding something that you really should be doing already. Common sense.
You're very right on that. And I haven't said before, I don't say this too often, but we shot Dark Military in 2015, didn't come out to 2019. A lot of that had to do with me running a film festival. Like, I got to stop editing and do this film festival. No, let's jump back on. Like, we got to do a movie trailer now. Let's stop everything. Let's put stuff together. There was always a reason to stop. So, we had our test screening 2 years later. Then we started doing the film fest runs, but I did not release this movie in 2019. Fellas, like, I took on 4 years of like practically a double mortgage and more. So every month when I'm seeing that bill come in, and people that are attached to film are Stillwater, crickets, like it bothers you folks. Like 100%. I'm over here working hard, and you're just like, when's the movie come out? That's it. When's it come out? Or can I get in the sequel? And you're like, can I get in the frick? Did you really just said that?
Can I be lead?
No, those questions are way more common than you guys think.
You have no idea. The other most common question you get sometimes, I swear to God, folks, this really happens. They'll come up and be like, brother, I hear all about your work. Could I be in the Dark Military Part 2? And I'll say, what did you think of Part 1? I didn't see Part 1.
I haven't seen it.
What if it's a lump of shit to you? Like, why would you want to, like?
That's so many good points. I mean, I like what Loren was saying earlier about, this is what I was saying. I was so impressed that he was able to manage a cast of 70 in the first feature film, is what Loren was saying earlier about, do these actors or this crew get along with each other, because I think it's way more common, as we all know from the music scene, like, oh, the band broke up, the members don't get together anymore. I mean, look at all these major bands who are System of a Down, Tool, name one, all these guys that took these massive hiatuses. It's like they haven't toured in 10 years. The band doesn't get along. But I don't think people think of it as much with the film side. Like Loren said, like, especially if he's a director that doesn't have his PA on set, and Loren turns around to go set up a scene, set up a shot, whatever he's doing, location work. And then like these people get into an argument and that blows a scene. Yep. It's like, how do you manage that? I think it's very behind the scenes stuff that, as Loren said, the average audience member or average guy who wants to get into Dark Military 2 that hasn't seen Dark Military 1 doesn't really think about, you know what I mean? It's just additional challenges,
So many combustible elements that could explode at any time.
And as you were saying, Ross, about like you saw me in a lot of little stuff like Crossbearer and just like all that, particularly Crossbearer, that's where I got groomed, I would say properly, because I was on that set for a month. But I have to also say, like, all those little I was like a zombie in 10 movies. That's it. I'd help where I could, and then I'd just be a zombie. And sometimes I'd be up front. Sometimes you wouldn't see me at all. But I was watching how sets were run.
100%.
And I asked a lot of questions. And then little by little, I'm just like, the top thing I noticed was if 2 or 3 indie film companies had a hand in a movie, they always got a divorce, and the movie would never come out because they couldn't agree, because there's 3 different company names on it. I was like, that's it. You run the number one,
as you said earlier.
Yes. I'm like, you don't want to. And then another one was just like a lot. I just noticed like some sets was the same crew or cast over and over, this revamped in other people's, different roles. And now you're the bad guy. Now you're the cop. Now they seem to get along, but I also noticed like the 2 or 3 movies they put out, most of the people would say, "Oh, I saw that." Like, no, that's not that. This is the new movie. Oh, no, I thought that was the cop. No, so I was like, I don't like that even so often cast the same people. Or I want people that never know, like, not get confused. The only thing I got so far since Rogue came out, when I would send them the poster and the link to be like, I saw this already, but like, I see what you're saying, but no, you didn't see this yet.
It says Rogue on it.
This says Rogue, but I understand the way I have the logo and stuff. But so, guys, there's always going to be something, and there also is can you take the bullets? Because there's going to be people that just want to hate you, or and that, I'm talking about before the Dark Militaries into this, into wherever I go. Like, can you take it? Because I've watched some films that I had a hand in recently that this came out, and it's like people are writing bad reviews on Amazon and stuff, and the cast is in there. F you, but I'm like, you have to
go back and forth with the trolls.
You have to be able to handle this, man. Like, let them talk. Just let them talk.
Yeah. Go, guys.
They behave like children.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and sadly, the negative side of social media has enabled that behavior so much more. And you just have to think, oh, well, that's what they think. No one is ever going to agree with everything we say, everything we like. Someone is always going to have a different view, different opinion, or whatever. And especially if you're doing anything in the arts, you've just got to take that on board and let it fly over. And if they're being vitriolic, it's just hot steam.
Yeah, you're right. You have to be able to. That's what a director truly is someone who could take the punches and just keep moving forward. It's like even the first, when Jaws was being made, Steven Spielberg, and they didn't understand like the current, so they couldn't keep the shark still in between it. And once he realized that, like, it's in this documentary, I was on HBO. It's like, I couldn't let them know I didn't know what I was doing for this and how I was going to fix it, because then the cast and crew would have lost respect for me. So he was just like, try to bring that forward and attach to that, but like, he didn't know if this was going to work. But you have to show that you're the leader,
in control, 100%. 100%. I agree. I mean, that's good, I guess.
No, it's all right, Ross. I'll come back to it.
I was simply going to say it reminds me of Ridley Scott on the Blade Runner set, and how Loren said when the studio producers get overly involved, they were coming on set fighting with that dude every day, saying, we don't like it, we don't like the direction it's going in, blah, blah, blah. He was going in the back room, screaming and yelling at each other, and then Scott was coming out of the arguments, victorious, and then it's one of the greatest films of all time. So, what the producer's interpretation of what's happening on set isn't always, like Loren said, they just have what they think is the right idea in their mind, probably without seeing a final cut or really maybe many dailies or really much at all. You know what I mean? They just think, oh, this is where they want it to go. And that might not be the same direction as what the director wants, as Loren was saying.
I also got to say, everyone who has ever worked any job, maybe like a family member, like the boss left, and then a family member takes that position, who you have to practically train, but like they want them in there because they're family, or just this guy did like in wrestling. Like Eric Bischoff used to sell meat. That's what he did, and then he got put in as a like, you don't know wrestling, and I'm not. That's not a knock at Eric. I just eventually, I would have to say he did. He took down Vince at one point. But my point is like, there's so many people that think that we all work places where working a place now where there was just a changing of the guard, and you're just kind of like, he's all right, but like, I know why you got it. You're juiced in through the family, but
relationships,
but the studios are the same way, folks, and that's why like one of the best trilogies we've ever had. Clearly is the first Lord of the Rings, where Peter Jackson was smart and took the movie to New Zealand, where those suits will not show up, and all hands were off. He got to do the movie his way, and we got this beautiful trilogy. And then after that, the suits are right there the entire time. Oh, we know what to do. Like
Amazon TV show,
and everything goes downhill and it crashes.
Yeah, I would say Coppola shooting Apocalypse Now in the Philippines, although Extreme Challenges is a similar dynamic,
Yep. If you get a chance, if you get A-list, I'm always going to be like looking for. If I make it, I don't want to shoot in Atlanta. I don't want to shoot in New York. I don't want to shoot in LA. I want to shoot some absolute like areas where I'm going to get the movie I want. Even if the suits show up, we'll coddle you for a few days. When they get back on the plane, we're like, all right, can that. We're going.
Man Backyard's always available.
Yeah.
so many people do that. Like my favorite example is the Scarface documentary, Loren, when De Palma's like they kept making me scale it back for the R rating because they rated it X, and then once they gave it to him, then he just gave the unedited final cut anyway. So funniest story ever. He's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give you your. And they had no idea. That's how the studio is. They give you all this red tape, but most of the time they don't actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's messed up, guys. I mean, everything is screwed up now. Again, when you say property, it's like even the Infinity War, which to me is one of the best Marvel movies out there. I have two gripes with it, and one's not their fault. There's no Silver Surfer, which was the huge, like no Wolverine, no Professor X, no Magneto. These are huge characters from that original comic. Like they're so important. Spider-Man, well, they got Spider-Man in there, but and then the second one, which when it happened in the theater, no one gasped but me, and no one spoke out loud except me. When it happened, I just said, the Incredible Hulk just lost a fist fight.
See, I would have had an issue with that myself.
People are like, I'm like, the Hulk just lost a fist fight. And then even to get worse, the Incredible Hulk, the Man of Rage, was scared to come out the rest of the movie. That is written in the script.
That I can't stand that. It started off
was horrible
when Thanos won at the end of the first one, and then the drunk Thor, that just like all those.
I didn't like Endgame almost at all. Like
parody.
You undid the beauty of what was the end of the
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. It was an unnecessary sequel, cash grab, and then the parody caricature of those characters of themselves. It's like I'm like, I can't tell if this is the real guys or they're just butchering them and these abominations to make fun of them.
You couldn't tell me though for the Hulk, and I understand they probably, they want a Banner in there as a human and stuff, but like he couldn't fought Thanos there and got launched out to outer space, and like he goes back to Banner, has to figure out like Thor how to get back to Earth, and at the last minute, the Hulk drops in the middle of that fight and does a 90-second like kick-ass scene, but it's too late. Like maybe like
100%.
Puts the hammer in him. Here comes the Hulk, like the rump to break his neck, and then like the reality ring kicks and he kicks back and he doesn't get his hands on him. How cool would that have been?
See, that was a way better scenario that you just spitballed in a random conversation. But the problem is they're never going to approach plot elements in any sort of intellectual. This is why Pitch Meeting gets to roast everybody so much. And he's actually from the Scream Rant channel where they were before he split off his own channel where they do honest trailers. And honest trailers is hilarious.
Oh, great! When I need a quick pick me up, that's where I go to Screen Rant.
I always send them to Gaz and other boy Mac who does the movie reviews with us. And whenever there's like if there's something we've seen that we like, we're like, okay, let's see what they did in honest trailers. If there's something that I just think looked like absolute garbage, but I just want to see him roast it, I'm like, I'm not going to watch that movie, so I'm just going to watch the honest trailer.
Yeah. So I'm like you. If I wanted to see the new Transformers, so when that came out, I skipped it until I saw it, and I was like, oh, that wasn't that good. Like, fire away.
yeah, exactly. Roast it.
Yeah. But I mean, I love, same thing with like Fury of the Gods, the second Shazam. Like, I love both Shazam movies like a lot. Yeah. It took me a while to see the second one, so like I skipped that one until after.
Yeah, it was interesting you mentioned wrestling, Loren, because I was thinking the way you were talking in your points and ensuring a smooth team, etc., and not having suits interfere. It kind of reminded me of the way Vince has kept a tight ship at WWE. Look, I lean more to AEW. That's what I prefer because it's a bit. Well, it used to be grimier, but now, sadly, I'm seeing.
Sorry, did you say AEW?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, okay.
Now though. Sadly, I'm seeing the same problems at AEW as Impact, formerly TNA, who are going to be TNA again in early next year. The same problems they had, where I feel there was I'm going on another tangent here, but so I'll get back to the point I was going with this. But in terms of keeping people who are not going to interfere with your management and your vision and business. Look, love or hate Vince, that's what he's done there. And Triple H looks like he's going to be doing the same. And I feel at AEW, there's been too much drama behind the scenes. I don't know, not just with the whole CM Punk, which would take another show in itself.
We'll get to him in a moment. Go on.
Yeah. And it's interfering with the product. You see it now. We're hearing it's not just with Punk. There's other drama that we're hearing coming out, and I'm like, man, why is it when one of these companies starts to get popular, they seem to then try and be too much like WWE? We're not watching them because they're like WWE. We want to see that alternative, and then these problems happen, and it's chaos. So I thought that was an interesting point as well. What you were making with about not having the suits involved on various movies. Lord of the Rings is a perfect example of that as well. And look, people out there love or hate Vince. When he was there, and Triple H is the same. They're not going to have any shenanigans that's going to interfere with that product. It's going to be tightly controlled. It is going to get out there. So
everybody's got a lot of wrestling fans know stuff like this, but some of them don't. But like the WWE has investors. And that's in the stock market. There's a lot that goes on here, and
big business.
There's so many pleasing the audience, and like I know, look, I've definitely stepped away, so I don't see this stuff as much. But isn't blood a no?
Blood's pretty much a no in WWE. You don't see too much, but you see it in AEW. It is. I mean, there's an argument for John Moxley pretty much bleeds every match.
You're right. So because they want the kids back, they want so that's why there was. I remember I did see the second night of WrestleMania on Peacock, and I remember Edge versus whoever that mutant guy was, and he got split open the hard way. That was like the first they said blood in a long time. I think they said on that, and then like Edge is down the other end now. You gotta understand, I see little things on YouTube, so like knowing that Edge went down there, I was like, all right, cool. I followed the CM Punk thing. I mean, I was on 2 independent shows with him. I've never said a word to the dude. I mean, he was a young, enthusiastic kid that got along with everybody in the locker room when I was there. So, but again, gauging people, and I give the guy a little bit of an edge because he's, you know, a hardcore dude and all that. But
exactly,
he's his own worst enemy. Like like if you hated Vince and all that, and they made me do this, and now I'm over here, and now you got a problem here, like. Dude, it's you. Like at 100%. This point, it's got to be you, man.
I agree.
This is why I've ranted with Ross about this so much, because the first 2 years of AEW was golden. It brought back a lot of people who've stepped away from wrestling. We finally had something that wasn't PG. You know, I
just like that there's competition, because when there's no competition, you got what Vince has. The reason I stepped away from wrestling was like, when the beaters, the 2 best ages of wrestling. I mean, you could say the golden age too, but like the beginning, the first few WrestleManias when the whole business changed, because I thought NWA was amazing at that time too. You had the Horsemen on the other side, and then there was the Monday Night Attitude Era, ECW era. But when WCW and ECW fell, there's no alternative. So watching those bad storylines from at least to me, they were. I was out.
No,
they were terrible.
I mean, I think the parallel, it applies to anything, as you were saying, Loren. When Disney buys up Star Wars and Marvel, you're back to McDonald's fast food. If you let WWE buy everyone up, you're just back to McDonald's. So when you only have one brand, and then I think, Gaz, what you were saying is the rise and falls is everybody kind of, as Loren just says, has those stretches of that you're really into, be it, you know, NWO, Attitude Era, or whatever. You know, I like, you know, Legacy WWF. When WCW comes up, you know, like same thing, like they hit their hot run when they got Flair, and, you know, everybody kind of has a run, but then as Gaz said, then they kind of cool off and they kind of fall into the industry, you know, cookie cutter model, which seems as AEW is having that trouble.
There was 2 interesting things in my eyes from AEW and WWF that just happened. But overall, my biggest beef with wrestling is the same way we were just talking about. The suits in the room.
Yeah.
This is what you got to say.
Yeah.
What? These guys got to concentrate on a wrestling match, and now they gotta know a script. They can't. You're basically saying you're too stupid to go stand out there without a mic, by yourself. Unless you're a Rock or Flair or someone just that flows that good.
Superstar, right? Yeah.
That part bothers the crap out of me. Like there's a part of me, if I was ever there, like I would have to convince my mind to just say yes to anything they do and hope for the best. Like, oh, this guy he's like a Cena. Like, all right, he's going to do anything. He's a company guy. Cool.
Yeah.
But I can also see like, I'm fired quickly because like I know the character. You're trying to tell me that the only character, but my character wouldn't do that then, and I'd get canned. But the 2 things I like was the Roman Reigns title streak of years. I was like, that was so missing. A long heavyweight title streak.
Agreed.
Oh my God, I was so happy over that.
Bloodline.
I didn't even know who Bloodline was. I just kept hearing like, "Oh, Roman Reigns is still the champion." It's been 2 years. Now it's been 3 years. I didn't know who Bloodline was until this last WrestleMania. I was just like, "Oh, it's a bunch of Samoans." All right, cool. I'm like, "All right."
I believe they're related to Dwayne. Is that correct, guys?
They are. Yeah, they're all part of
Demon Hazleton. Like
the
WXW.
Family, there's 5 sons. I'm trying to think of the dude. They are the sons of
Rikishi,
who's in the Rikishi, in the Attitude Aggression era. Yeah.
I'm saying I heavily stamped that. I'm like, cool. I don't know what's he's still the champion.
Well, Yeah, he is. That is the only thing.
Did the champ still, or did he lose?
He's still the champ.
Okay.
He is about to be faced by LA Knight, who was Eli Drake in Impact TNA, and he was in NWA for a while as well. It literally, look, WWE for me, in its terms now, is too toned down, is too soft, is too plastic. But the only good thing about it is the bloodline, which is usually the start and end of any WWE show. AEW, it's funny you said Disney as well, Ross, that's where I was going with it. First 2 years was great. Genuine alternative. It gave us non-PG wrestling with the over-the-top violence, which they still do. Then sadly, because I don't know, I'm not there, this is total guesswork, Tony Khan maybe has too many people in his ear. We're getting drama. It's not getting...
Loren was basically just saying.
Exactly. It's not getting dealt with. Like, that wouldn't fly at WWE.
Guy, but that's the thing is he's another guy that he had the money.
Yeah.
So that big thing that happened when CM Punk like got in that fight or threatened and like also did that interview, what was it, like a year ago when he got suspended? You're insulting
all out.
You're insulting the company next to that. I was like, because I thought that was just fake. Honestly, I thought that was just like
I thought it was a work at first.
A lot. Yeah,
me, it's part of the thing. But like when you found out it wasn't, I was like, oh, geez. Like I think Vince would have stood up and knocked them out cold. Like you don't do that shit. Exactly. You know?
Yeah, nothing ever happens like that to Vince.
I watched that show as well, all out. Then the press conference after, and I thought it was a work, and you had all the drama, and I'm like, no. And then when you realize, no, this isn't a work, I'm like, there's no way that would fly anywhere else. This discipline that is lacking.
Said, I'm invincible. You can't fire me. Watch this. That's what he did.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
That's nonsense.
But he does get fired. You know, he comes back for a little bit and then he gets fired. But when you say AEW, like I was hearing, like I think with Arn Anderson, you know, he wasn't he there for a bit, like managing his son and all that, and Tully Blanchard
as well.
Yeah, I was like, this is cool. I'm not a big. I knew Sting came back. I loved, but he's another one of them guys. Like I just saw he did this formal announcement, retirement, and all that. But I was just happy there was an alternative, and my favorite wrestler is an AEW, guys. I'm an MJF guy. Like
MJF's hilarious.
He's just the only thing that, to me, he's the only thing interesting in wrestling. To me, that and the bloodline. That's it.
Christian's been on fire actually since he's come into AEW. His promo work is absolutely savage.
And I didn't know if this made. I think this made somewhat press, but MJF was at Monster Mania.
Nice.
But
I saw that.
He was in character the whole time. So when a woman was walking by with her baby and the baby was crying, he actually said, "Shut that baby up." But he was in full character being serious. He goes, "I didn't come." He's like, "Shut that baby up." And then there's pictures where he was making posts, and this is the truth about, especially Monster Mania. We always say, though, you'll know when you're in hell when you're in Monster Mania at like 3:00 in the afternoon, because all the fatties are there and they stink. Like they're sticking out the place, right?
Like Comic-Con,
and you see them, the fat guy standing behind MJF, getting this picture of MJF holding his nose. They paid for this. They paid for this.
That's savage.
He did one as well at an event before that where he was in character, and I think he was talking to a 10-year-old kid, and he stayed in character and did classic MJF.
Yeah, like he's 10-year-old kid. Like it's it. He's just like, "Don't have that baby cry around me." And the mother was like F-bombing, like, "You mother," like it's a baby. He's just like, "I don't care. Hey, get it out of here." You had a good mom. You can't get your baby up. You're like,
sometimes they don't understand the heels, when they're stuck in character.
But you see, the problem I feel where I was going with this, what AEW has, or what I was going to get to with the lack of discipline, as well as the drama, I feel isn't being controlled. It's affecting the product. And the booking is horrendous. Tony Khan effectively has made it boring to watch now. It's the same people all the time. It's got such a cluttered roster. He bought Ring of Honor, didn't get it.
Do you know who's like his guys, like the agents? Like, like you have like Norman Smiley training in WWE, and you know who the agents are up there. But I'm basically saying there's no guy. I'm not saying that's the way you need to handle things, but there's no like guy that was like Harley Race or Ming like down there that could be like, I said stop it, and then like there's a fear of like I could get knocked out sort of thing. There's no one down there that's kind of like you're not going to say no to this guy. Like you are going to respect who just said that to you, sort of thing.
It's like it reminds me, like we were saying earlier.
There is one. That's my question, though. There's no one down in AEW.
No. I mean, the rumor is they say Chris Jericho, and he's got Kenny Omega and the Bucks around him. But that's a bit of the problem for me with sometimes is the way it's like when CM Punk got fired, and they did a show in Chicago, the Bucks were dancing around the ring, kind of celebrating, and all the crowds were. And I'm like, why would you allow that? I'm like, look, if you can't have it both ways where it's okay for one to misbehave. You're in this dude's hometown on the day he was due to appear, right or wrongly, for whatever his opinions are, and he was fired. And you're letting two of your top guys on that roster do like party celebrations around when people are booing you and they're thinking, did they have a part in him being fired possibly? Oh, this just isn't cool. You need that discipline to maintain the structure. The same in film, whatever it is, in bands. You train martial arts like I do, Loren. It's the same when you go in the dojo in the training hall. If there's someone there who isn't going to behave and respect where you're training, they're dealt with. They're dealt with in the right way verbally, or then you're not training here anymore. We can't have that disruption.
You're completely right. Yeah, martial art guy just sit here too. So like I totally get it. Or like in football in the locker room, someone's misbehaved. Like the defensive line.
Discipline. Like
You got to. But that's why I was bringing up like there a Ming or a Harley, somebody like or like I know they won't work there, but there's no JBL or Ron Simmons at the other end like that could just be like, let's chat. We're walking down this hallway, and when we come back, the problem's squashed. No matter what you got to say.
There is some well-known names there, and it just makes me wonder sometimes can't these people be more involved in that side to help with the booking and maintain some discipline? You've got the Big Show there. You've got Mark Henry there. You've got he was Desmond Wolfe in Impact, and now he's on commentary. Nigel McGuinness, who used to the Big Show's there.
All right, so they got some up there.
Yeah, and you just feel these aren't being utilized.
Almost with Edge there. Like I don't know if he just wants to go have one last fun round, but I mean, you would think if he was to pull you aside, you might want to listen to him.
Exactly.
I think so.
Exactly.
And it's weird because if you're Tony, you should be able to hire. There's plenty of people on the bench right now that they come in and help your locker room. Be management and control these people.
Is Jim Ross still at AEW, guys?
He is, He doesn't do so much. He's not on commentary as often now. The kind of use him like a super sub, bring him in for some main events, use him on commentary that way. It's mainly Excalibur, Taz, and Tony Schiavone now on commentary, but in Collision is Nigel McGuinness, who, as I said, who was Desmond Wolfe in TNA back in the day, and is it Kevin Kelly from New Japan? And again, New Japan, that kind of behavior would not fly. No problem, Loren. That kind of behavior, what we've been talking about, certainly wouldn't fly in New Japan either. It just wouldn't. You'd just be out the door. And I just thought it was an interesting parallel with what we've been discussing with film. If someone goes as a hothead on a film set, you've got to manage those elements in the right way to ensure a smooth operation, or you've got chaos.
Very, very good what you just said there too, and it's very important. I was doing it during the first film. You clearly can't get everybody that when you have like that amount of people I had in the first one, but I was doing it. But this particular last one, like you're in between. I have 6 actors. I'm one of them in the Dark Military Rogue, but you're going and the crew. So I'm always checking on people. Like when the character he walks off, like I might take a walk for a second. Like, how you doing? You feeling good? You all right? Like, got any questions on the scene? You all right? You is there anything I can do for you? Like I go, and you're doing that to everyone around about. You're checking on your cameraman, you're checking on your gaffer, your sound guy, the girl of the house that we're staying at. We stayed at a family's house. Like everything all right? There's nothing going on here I need to know about. Like you check on things, So it's important for when someone says, "What's it like working for him?" You hope they remember that and say, "Oh yeah, he was very accommodating." You know, that's very big because I've been on sets where there's no food. I've been on set where a guy said he couldn't get a case of water, he couldn't afford it, and I took him for a walk, and I said, "You have $4 on you." And he's like, "Well," I was like, "You have $4 on you. I'll watch over everyone. Acme's over there. Go get the water." Like he showed up with water, but like you got to sometimes go to bat like that, you know.
Yep,
so
I agree.
It's important, and you know, like this is we're about to turn the evil clocks back again, and you know I'm on the East Coast here, so you know I get the colder weather, but like I had the Dark Military script written, the second one, for a while. But I literally feel it's dated. It's like dated because so many years went by. So like I'm really about to go rewrite the third act, and I'm also writing these side stories. And I'm also I kind of have two stories for the second one, which I don't know which one I want to roll with here. So it's literally on budget. Like if I could get to here, we could make this one. But if we get to here, we could do it this way. And I think filmmakers need to have that much ready to go, because somebody calls you and says, "I got some money to throw around. Can I check the script out?" And you're like, "Well, I didn't write it yet." That deal's going away fast. They're like, "This guy's not even prepared. He or she's not even prepared." You should always be ready. Have everything ready. Be able to take the meeting any time of day.
Yeah, no, I think Loren mentioned that before in our audio interview. And I think that's one of the best points you made of independent film making. Just for the audience, I want to set up why we were talking wrestling. Loren was involved with the ECW promotion, but before it went away. Is that correct, Loren?
I was involved with that as far as I helped the promoter. I never met Paul Heyman, never got a check by ECW, but I was helping a big time promoter. I was his help, getting paid by him. But we were doing work for ECW. So technically, I was working for ECW, but technically I wasn't.
Contracting, you know what I mean? But anyway, so he's an old East Coast wrestling veteran. And since we brought it back to Dark Military, I want to get us back to Rogue. But before we do that, when you were, I think it was right before it dropped, I don't know if it's a trailer, you sent me a couple tidbits. You told me about how you guys secured R. Marcus Taylor for the chief role. I was extremely impressed with because I think I had just come straight out of Compton when you sent me that, and I was like, you did what? I was like, how the hell did Loren pull that up? So
the ball was rolling on that. I mean, we had everybody from even Judge Reinhold to Christian Slater to Danny Glover. We talked to a lot of people. Corey Feldman's team was interested in it, and I'm one of them. It's like one of my favorite actors, like him and Haim. I grew up on. I'm like, love to be in a movie, but I'm like, he's not a police chief.
He's
not a police chief.
Right call by you. Yeah.
So when I heard his name, I didn't know. I was like, how come I know that? I know that name. It's like it was fresh, and I'm like, well, everybody else is kind of somewhat of a has-been that we're hearing or not as relevant. I'm like, this dude's just coming off this gigantic movie that's up for awards.
Yep.
That's why I told my agent, start rolling the ball with them. And then we're just going back and forth. I'm getting text messages and phone calls why I'm at my day job. And then we came to a price. I'm like, yeah, lock it up. He's like, all right, I'll start the paperwork. So
was he an East Coast actor, or it just came together?
Yeah, he's up in New York.
That's what I thought. I thought he was a New York actor.
He was another dude that, listen, I'm not trying to throw some nuke bomb, but he was he didn't do anything to market the film. That was one.
I was going to come back to that. What we were saying earlier, as Loren was saying, making the film isn't necessarily the same as supporting the film, guys. Because Loren said,
there are the actors, guys, that your names that are going to show up and they're going to take the money, they're going to do the job, and you're never going to hear from them again. So and there's another dude that when he asked for some I didn't hear anything. We started chatting again. I'm like, good, this is perfect. The trailer is going to drop. I need to have a relationship with this guy. He's kind of been off the grid. And then he was asking for all his footage and stuff. And I said, brother, could you help me out? The trailer's out there. Could you just please share that and maybe say a little something about it? And he's like, yeah, no problem. And then the next day he's like, where's my clips? I'm like, I checked the walls. Like, you didn't share the trailer. Could you just press a button? I'll give you whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then it's like, oh, I don't think I'm going any further with you. And I'm like, okay. And I literally have that screenshotted and blown up, and I look at it a lot. I have it like posted.
Okay, totally not the backstory.
Real one, though.
I actually have, while we're at it, I mean, I'm not going to drop a million names, but everybody I've had a falling out with when they've lost their mind to send me like text messages, I have a wall of fame where I have all this hate pouring up.
Wall of hate.
Yes, me, and I actually have it hung out outside at my party bar. There's a shrine. Yeah. It's actually called. It's actually dedicated to the guy that played the role of Kane. It's his name, and it's the Wall of Fame. And people come over and they read it. They're like, "Dude, these people hate. Why is this hanging here?" And I'm like, "It's funny to me." I'm just like, and then they read it. They're like, "Wow, they sound completely off." And they're like, so like,
you're like, that's why it's hanging there.
So that's how much none of that stuff bothers me. But I mean, again, it's one of those. I tell people, you just don't know when you get that actor, you're all pumped, and it's like they could just get the money and run, and
100%.
There's nothing legal you can do about it. There's nothing like, hey, well, you promised you can't. So you basically got to sit there and smile when you bring up their name. Oh yeah, they were the greatest to work with. Oh, I'd bring them back again. And I'm not bringing that group of cops back for the next movie. It's not nothing against the rest of them. It just doesn't flow where the dark military is going next. Like they just kind of did a crime against all of America. They're not going to be focused on that little
local PD.
We're talking about like.
Bigger scale.
Yeah, they're gonna have, there's gonna be a lot of the world saying, "How'd you let this happen?" And all hands are on deck waiting. And then there's the question: can they come back? Will they? Or are we never gonna hear from them again? And I think you can kind of tell that you're gonna hear
where it's going. You can see where it's going. Watch Dark Military Rogue. Being that point that you brought up, Loren, I'm just wondering on the business side, have you considered writing in promotional obligations into the contracts going forward? Maybe for those big names. I know it's a lot to deal with, but
it's kind of hard because now you're also now dealing with their talent fee. Now you got to kind of pay for that. Am I gonna have enough for that, or do I just pick a couple particular names that I think are good social media present and pay them differently? Do I pay them differently?
Right.
But I could tell you, like, it was nice to have, like, those 4 names in my movie, especially like the phone callers and all that, and I liked them. But, like, I can tell you guys right now, like, I have to say this as a whole because I don't want anyone to get mad at me, but, like, it is the truth. The truth. Like, everyone you see at those conventions, they're not selling your movie, guys. They're not like making your movie, and you can make. I suggest everybody have a strong story. Put the best you put in the production value. Put that money that you're going to pay the talent into marketing, because you could have this guy from Friday the 13th Part whatever, or from the 80s and all that. Like, there's a reason they're not as popular as they used to, because they don't sell the movie. That's it, guys. That's what you ever wonder what happened? They're not selling the movie anymore. So there's so many people saying, like, I got to get this person from Nightmare Night. I got to get this. I'm like, I've always like, I don't think you need it. That's just me. I'm like, literally some of the numbers that I hear these people want, I was like, you can make your sequel out of that. So there's ways of reaching, but as we were talking off air before we started, it's like, you've got your podcast. I got my weekly podcast on Average Superstar TV, but it's like, there's ways to be seen, but the deck keeps getting stacked against people like you and I, or anyone else who's listening to us as a podcast. It's like, you share that on X or Facebook or Instagram or wherever, TikTok. I'm not a TikTok guy, but those sites don't want you to leave. So although AI is going to generate that post, they're going to make sure people don't really see that. Yeah. So it's harder to release a trailer. So you watch when I release Dark Military Rogue, the full movie, on Facebook, Now I'm going to see all the thousands of hits, but it's like I'm trying to build it here on YouTube first. That is where I'm trying to get the beef up first before I say it's okay to let Facebook have it. You know what? I got a feeling, and this is a good spoiler alert, with all the violence that happens in Rogue, I think the movie's going to get flagged.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think they're going to say like content too.
I don't know though. There's a lot of weird stuff on YouTube that doesn't get flagged, so I feel like the way they move the goalpost on that is very.
I'm talking on Facebook when I actually.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it could just be one hater too. That was
agreed.
You know, so it's harder to be seen. You know, you're doing your thumbnails, you're doing your short clips. And it's weird because it's like you could have some of the content you think this is it, and then it doesn't hit, and then you'll see someone make this dumbest video you've ever seen in your life, and it's got like 50,000 hits, and you're like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, it's almost you almost feel like
pranks or whatever. I guess.
Yeah, you almost feel like things going backwards because people have seen obsessed with watching absolute nonsense on TikTok and things. You think, well, what the hell's the point?
I think
there's no purpose there.
When you say TikTok, I just think of people dancing. That's all
is pretty much.
Now there's news. Now there's I mean, I don't even have it, but I see it reposted. I see it reposted. Like,
but everything I see is dancing, or someone runs up and like from behind and slaps a cop's head off, and the cop turns around like, oh, he's gonna get arrested, and then the cop starts dancing with them. Like, this is what the world we live in now. Like,
it is. Going back to the point you were making about getting these 80s or whatever iconic horror genre names, another point I think is that somebody like you, with your background in film, you have these personal relationships with maybe these indie actors that you know are going to perform at a higher skill level, acting talent wise, for the scenes that you need. Yep. And then it, brings up the comparison. Okay, well, I know someone that's perfect for this role, and like I said, you may already have a personal relationship with it. Do I bring in this name who, like you said, was a big brand in the 80s, but maybe not so relevant now? Yet you maybe have a local actor that is going to give you a better performance.
I would always go, unless there's just something, like if I know, like, what if one of them actors is about to hit a TV show next year and there's a chance they could explode again? Mm-hmm. So could you deal with them in the meantime? But you got to understand what you're saying. I'd rather the hungry indie actor. Mm-hmm. And I also could say, like, when you bring in any of those names from like that, the has-been stars, I mean, I've seen some of them on movie sets be the nicest, humbled. They want to help. And then I've also seen, like, there's another reason you're not on any sets. Like, you think you're worth this big. You're bragging about a movie from 30 years ago, and it's like
you haven't saved $1 from.
They could bring the set down, or they didn't know. There's some that I've seen that have not shown up and not known their lines. But they didn't read the script to the day of, and now you got to kind of piece it together or feed them the lines, and then they're embarrassed, but they're gonna yell at the set like this is the one,
blame it on everybody else.
So I would suggest, if I ever bring a name in, it would be a one day. Like, get them in, we'll go dive right into this,
the scene, the cameo, or whatever.
Like, I look at it's what I call my Crispin Glover day. When that day happens, I love Crispin Glover. I just think but like, I know when I bring him in, I think he's in the top 10 actors we've ever had. He's a pure artist. Yes, is out there. I understand. And I've known people that have stories about when you bring him in, you don't know what you're going to get. He might not listen to you. Mm-hmm. It's a guilty pleasure. I have to work with Crispin Glover before I retire. So I'm going to have the Crispin Glover day of, like, everybody know their lines. But if he shifts, we're going to shift with him and piece it together and make it work.
Got to adapt. It sounds like a Gary Busey kind of dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was there when Gary Busey got his last arrest at Monster Mania.
Oh, wow. I was not aware of that.
I'm going to stick up for Gary in a moment, but I'll get the story out. But
sure. Gary
he got arrested on a Saturday. On Friday, every girl was saying, like, when he's sitting on her lap, like, he's touching. Mm-hmm. He's touching all the girls in public in pictures. And all I'm saying is, why is the agent not saying to him, dude,
yeah, behave.
you can't do this. So on Saturday, I guess someone forged, like, I think it was an underage girl. It might have been too. Yeah. So they called the cops, and he went out in handcuffs, and he's never been at a convention since. But I also have a thing about, like, I'll combine these three names. We have a big thing about mental illness in the country, about when we see someone on the street, it's like, oh God, that's so, someone should help. That's sad. But when Sinead O'Connor melted down for 20 years, we laughed at her, and now she's dead. So for some reason, we separate who's important, and like Britney Spears did whatever she was doing with knives. Now it's okay to make fun of Britney again. Clearly, Britney's not right in the head. I don't think that's right.
Standard.
And then Gary Busey smashed his head. I think he was on drugs at the time, but got in a car wreck, hit his head, and that's when Gary Busey turned into Gary Busey we know now. So I think Gary Busey's kind of like a guy, like, yeah, he can mow his front lawn and all that stuff, but I think he needs a handler, and I don't think like he should be around. Like his mindset's clearly like
all the way there.
The way like when we see a hot looking girl, it's like it just stays here, where Gary's just like, no, I could touch her. Like you can't. So I have a big thing of Gary Busey shouldn't have been doing signings. He shouldn't. The public should have let him go. But yet, I think he had a TV show, didn't he? So whatever network exploited him. They right. You know what I mean? The same thing with
the whole promo run. Yeah.
And they did it to Anna Nicole Smith and anybody else out there. It's like, we want train wrecks. Oh, your mental illness isn't sad enough for us to get ratings. So I have a big double standard thing. Agreed. I go into politics on that too, but I just, when it's sentimental, it's been bothering me. And especially like Sinead O'Connor, I've seen so many people posting terrible stuff about her, but when she died, it was rest in peace. So I was like,
yeah, exactly.
What side of the freaking fence are you on here, man?
Have it both ways. You know?
Yeah, and it's through a lot of the bands I've been speaking to myself recently on Fed Up, mental health has been pretty much one of the dominant factors behind their songwriting and lyrics, pretty much for the reasons you've said, Loren. And it's really sad when, look, whether anyone is a fan of these people musically, creatively, if someone has those problems and struggles, then they shouldn't just be brushed under the carpet. They need help or dealing with in the right way. And then it's that hypocrisy, as you were saying, and double standards when these things happen. Like you made a perfect example with Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah. Like we laughed. Like everybody across the board was like, "Haha, look at she's falling apart." I'm like, that's horrible. That's just horrible to do to somebody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I don't like, but like if I know they're going through that, like
don't wish ill on
them. I'm not going to pull the double. Like maybe you're not getting my help, but like I'm not kicking you. You're down.
Yeah, kick them when they're down. That's a big.
If anything, I might actually call it relative and be like, I'm not a fan of them, but like you might you need to step in here.
Check out the situation. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And people forget that it can happen to anybody at any given moment. They think, right, I'm always used to being strong and supportive, wanting someone, and you don't know what circumstances you could be faced with, and then you could be one of those very people that you were laughing at. And I'm quite sure anyone in that situation would want to help.
And the big thing is when you say like, oh, you feel for them, but what could you do? When you don't, and this is the second shoe, and this could open up a hole in the door, but when you don't, you're getting all the shootings you're getting now. And particularly the one that just happened in Maine, the guy was just in a mental institution, and he told people he's going to go do something like that. Well, there is a certain point where I just think, like, for public safety, you can't be out in public. Like, I don't know.
Some action,
I don't have the exact answer, but that's what I'm talking about. Like when there's got to be a freaking protocol here of getting people checked out when they're acting up too.
It's more common too, because you see whether schools or institutions, you hear like they made these violent threats and then they go do the event. You know, like the police do the investigation after. It turns out, oh, he made a bunch of verbal violent threats to people. But people didn't take him seriously. We could only take that excuse so many times, guys. I want to get us back to some Rogue guys. Well, I'm going to ask one question before that, because if Loren needs to dance around any spoilers, we'll allow it. I hate this question, Loren, because me and Gaz are big proponents of independent original IP, which is what Dark Military is. But at the same time, we know influences come from everywhere, right? You're a horror genre veteran. At least I consider you one. I love this character. I saw little tinges of this character in Barabbas and Rogue, and I'm just wondering if there's any influence. If I'm totally wrong, you can just tell me you don't know what you're talking about, Ross. I'm pretty sure you know him from the convention scene. Otis from House of a Thousand Corpses, Bill Moseley. I'm just wondering, did you take any Otis influence on Barabbas? I love the character. I love the actor.
If you can't see him there, there's something wrong with you.
I was hoping I got that right.
I've said, like, the original movie was like the Road Warrior, a Scream that meets Devil's Reject, meets Friday 13th, meets 24 because of like the countdown, and there's the reason the Devil's Rejects is there because I felt that there's reality. A lot of it's just like my inner self of how I would see things and wish I could just react, but. Sure. If you can't see Negan in there, he's in there too. Like I have a little sprinkles of this and that, but
it's kind of like how Bruce Campbell said, like Ash is his worst version of himself. He's like, they're like, hey Bruce, how much you like Ash? And he's like, well, he's kind of an idiot, so I'm not that much like him, but he's the worst version of me. Yeah. Barabbas is your dark side.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and I mean,
no filter, Loren.
That's a good ingredient to have Otis.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I actually did his the satanic ritual he did with the face makeup. I did that for last Halloween with the
I remember that picture. Yeah.
I'm a Moseley Otis fanboy over here. But if we can, I just
go. Yeah, but that's the whole idea of what the Dark Military group is actually. I was always saying we haven't had a group since the Devil's Rejects, so that's where I came up, like, male and female groups, and like. It's an extended family where, here comes a new character of Eve that it wasn't in the first movie, and we make reference of more. So, that's I've always wanted that. And I've always wanted that if somehow the Dark Military, including Barabbas, was ever wiped out, you don't get the general. This next Halloween, he just hires a whole different group.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, that's the scary part. And there's even a little bit of I didn't mean it at the time, but it made me rethink when I watched it. I was like, there's a little bit of like the strangers in the Dark Military because you don't know who they are, why they do it. They put a mask on, they terrorize, and then they take it off and walk among you. That's what the Dark Military is too,
You're referring for the strangers from Dark City.
The movie The Strangers that they walk.
Okay, that's okay. That's
Liv Tyler and all that. Like,
yeah.
It's like they put a mask on, they're hired. But when that is over, they're going to be walking. As it said,
for
first movie, the scariest part is we're going to take our mask off and be walking among you.
Yeah, true fear.
Be integrated back into or assimilated back into society.
Yep. And you don't know what they are. Maybe Barabbas is a school teacher. You don't even know. So
that's good. Go ahead, guys.
I was just going to say, but that's what keeps it interesting because it has that mystery element, the essence of true fear, because they could be walking among you. The subtle references with introducing Eve, the general, as we mentioned earlier, it's making me, as someone who's seen the first movie, think, what is going to happen next? I want to know more about these characters. I want to know more about this possible team. Could it be? There's so many ways it could influences your thought process, because you can be thinking, if this set a foot wrong, we've already seen what happens to someone who goes rogue. In this sense, rogue and settling down, they're punished. So if someone else does that, is then that going to come back on, Barabbas? Hey, this is another one who's gone rogue. Are you the right person for the job here? We'll get the Archangel to take you out.
You never know if, especially the reference to the Dark Angels.
Dark Angels, sorry.
The development of what Carter, what Carter started at the beginning of the movie. And at the very end, how horrible of a person he was, just to basically survive a few minutes longer. Like it just came back, like, I'm going to hang out an extra 2 minutes. There's a reason I wrote that scene with a circle where Barabbas does a countdown, because that's like an intense. Because I've had so many people like, here's what I thought was. I didn't think that. And I was like, and Barabbas didn't think that. Like, you know, the way he looks at him after, like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I like the reference to him, the ability to feel pain again, him becoming soft, that he's no longer a dark military member anymore. And Barabbas, like, you know, I thought we broke you and, you know, took the pain away from you.
I like how you know that that it carried over from the first movie, that the first movie made that much of an impact. That's like a big thing when you're a dark military member. Your mind got programmed that you don't feel pain.
Yeah,
you can still die, but like you're not. It's just not accepted.
Almost like you're no longer human anymore. You become a dark military member. It's like a shadow of whatever your former.
Yeah, it's like you're not allowed. And if you remember the ending of the first one, the character Griffin was in training. He never made it. That was like one of the things. Like you're on probation. You weren't supposed to be doing that, but he still can feel pain. Like. Yeah, anybody could do the kill. I mean, any person that on the earth has the strength to kill someone, but there's more to it to be part of the team. It's got its rules.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple other things I want to talk, like special effects and some of the things you guys did. Of course, I don't want, if there's a plot, if I'm spoiling a plot element, you could literally say next question, Loren. It's all good. Again, guys, pause over to Loren's channel, watch the film, and then you come back to us.
We'll say that again. So I go to Average Superstar TV for 23 minutes, watch Rogue, and then when you come back,
there's a reason why we keep saying that if we're somehow like offending you guys. Oh man, so I think the scene I just referenced, that's a ice pick or a stab to the thigh. That's pretty brutal. I'm also wondering about Skylar's squibs. The squibs you guys use on Skylar's absolutely brutal, man. Super realistic. Very good effects. I don't know if you had someone helping you on. Christina Puff,
who has she's got like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. She's one of my besties. She's an effects girl from Tom Savini School. She graduated out of there, so she's her own entity. She does a lot of effect stuff every week. That's like the blunt of her channel. She does other things, but I just told her up front, she's someone I got well acquainted with over the years. Like my next movie, you're in. So we worked something out, and told her what I wanted done. I basically just like read the part where the characters die, and we can make adjustments. Like I was just basically I said, we've got 2 days here. I'm going to have you on set for 1 day. The first day was mostly establishing character and dialogue. The first day ended at the fire scene. But that comes up. That was the day. But the next day, we got to finish the movie and we got to take care of the other two. So, I said, like, what I have written in the script could this be done in 1 day? And there was a tweak because I think I wanted it right here, and like, I got to meet up with and get a prosthetic and like mold it. And I was just like, no. I was like, what's an express? And then that's what you got. And I was like, all right, so she had her testers for done beforehand. So it's just like get to that part, stop, get everything on, and then off to the side with a tube off camera. She's blowing that thing and going. And
it looked perfect, man.
That blood poured. I was so happy with it.
Yeah. And kudos to the actress as well, guys. Skylar. I mean, it was a great special effect, but a great.
By the way, the girl that plays Skylar's a ring announcer for like CZW and like a lot of companies in the East Coast. Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's actually where I met her. So
super badass.
Yeah. I think you guys are friends with her, right? One of you guys tagged her. So, but yeah, we became friends because the girl that plays Delilah in the first Dark Military movie, after the Dark Military movies, became a professional wrestler, and she was in Ring of Honor and The Righteous. She was Vita Von Starr.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I've heard of Ring of Honor. Yeah.
So before that, she was a Dark Military member, and
that's awesome.
Most likely. I don't see why not, because I've talked to her several times. She should be in the official sequel. So, but she's part of the righteous, that kind of like that Charles Manson Devil's Rejects group and all that. So
sure.
I went to see her wrestle, and that's where I met her, Rosa. I got to play Skylar, and we started chatting, and I said I haven't been to a show in ever. I'm only here because of her, and she's in my movie, and she's like, "Well, I act too." I was like, "You do?" And we just stayed in touch, and got her in.
Badass. No, I thought, I mean, I know we're focusing on her because of the FX conversation, but honestly, I thought everybody did a great job in Rogue. Do you have anything to jump in with, guys, or otherwise I have one more?
No. Keep going, man.
So
I'll let you get a word in.
I'm just going to call it the Man on Fire sequence, Loren. It's brief, but it did look awesome. You guys kind of cheated the filter, and it was clever shooting, I thought. So
I told you the first day we ended at that scene. We did not do that scene there. We did that. That was, I think it was was it? All right, but no, we did do it, I think, the first night. But the thing was I had to put a dummy together, and I had to transfer the clothes that he had on, and I had a pair of pants. I
noticed that,
and there was a reason he wore that hat, because I kind of and I was like, he's bald, so it was it worked out perfect. So I'm literally buying the artificial head from Amazon for $10-$20, and I'm sitting there. I've got lighter fluid, and I'm like, I said to my cinematographer Wes, I'm like, I need 2 seconds of this, but I really want to get this thing popping. I was like, I can't have it the audience staring at that and being like, But when that thing went, because we were talking during all of it, there was no audio. We put the all that in after do sound design, but we were like, wow, this is working. We're over here now, get this angle. I was like, I love this, have 2 angles where I could cut this and get out. And that worked. And I was like,
it looked so good.
Yeah, it did. I was happy.
I mean, I could tell it was a dummy, but it was just such an intense scene and so awesome that I was like, and I'm like, damn, he did a good job on that. Like you said, a very brief couple second shot, but it's still awesome.
Yeah, and it was important. Plus, the character of Kane's kind of like my Jason Frankenstein sort of guy. He's strong and can pick him up and set him in that.
Call him.
So
sure.
So that worked out great. So
Yeah, there's many more epic special effects towards the end of that sequence Loren is referring to. I'm not going to give away how you guys have to go.
Ending, I was just
brutal.
That was always one thing about the first film. I have 26 kills, but you can't
more gore
a whole movie and get the gore that you want. So some of the people that said I wish it had more of this, I was like, I remember that for Rogue.
I can do that.
We did.
This is Loren you're talking to. This guy eats, sleeps, and dreams horror. Go check it out, guys. It's awesome. Obviously, check out one on Tubi and check out Rogue over on Loren's channel. I think we're at 146, guys. So I don't think we have too much more for you, Loren.
No. I think the only thing is there anything else you have to bring up besides Roadhouse?
No, just Roadhouse. It's just Roadhouse. So Loren's our resident Roadhouse expert. We're all legacy 80s Roadhouse fanboys, Swayze fanboys. I'm more of a Point Break fanboy, but I feel it all overlays. So Loren's got you. You have the short. Is it still up on? It was on.
It's on the same channel, Average Superstar TV. It's called Saturday Night Thing, which was made out of that quote from the bouncer that got fired for having sex. Yeah.
So it's a Loren, epic Loren Roadhouse short film, and then what we were talking. Go ahead, guys.
I was just going to say as well, and this was last time I remember when we talked to you about that for the first time, and I said, and I'm still mentally scarred by it, and I'll just say there's a certain scene, you know what I'm referring to.
A ginger person.
Dude, that scarred me for life. I don't think I've ever recovered.
I think that scarred everybody's ever seen it.
It was hilarious, though.
So anyone who keeps up with film news, and if you've been watching this whole podcast, unfortunately for you, you realize that we're all film nerds from all the references we made.
Yeah.
I myself, I'm going to stick up for my man, Loren. I'm half Sicilian, half Irish. I'm a Conor McGregor fanboy of the USC. There's just one problem. Conor's making his Hollywood debut with Jake Gyllenhaal. And unfortunately, I don't know why this is, but for all the stuff we said about studios earlier in this thing, it's a Roadhouse remake. You know what? I actually have a little bit of insight on this, Loren, because I was at UFC in Vegas when John Jones took the heavyweight title. And I don't know if you've seen any of these articles or any of this has piqued your radar.
Jake Gyllenhaal fought like they filmed before the fight.
Yes, right? Yes. So I was he did a walkout.
Right there out of the gate, like Dalton's not a UFC guy. Like, what do they do?
Yeah, it's some MMA spin on this new. I don't know where that angle comes from. Just because they signed Conor, so they were like, "Oh, Jake's an MMA fighter in this one." Seems very random. There's no trailer yet that I know of.
So from what you think, is it Dalton versus Jimmy in the UFC? Is that what they're going for?
That didn't occur to me till you said it right there, and that probably has to be it. But then again, like,
is Conor gonna play Jimmy, or is he playing like a Wade Garrett character?
I would guess like a Wade Garrett character. I don't know where Conor is gonna fit into that hierarchy of the original characters. Like, does he just come in as a totally random European Irish villain? You know, so, yeah, right. Right. Yeah, maybe he will be. Maybe he used to do that to guys.
Or the polar bear that falls on Tinker. That'd be Conor's greatest role.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going with it, but again, Loren is our Roadhouse guy. I just wanted to get his opinion of the remake.
When it comes to Roadhouse, that's to me is an American classic at this point. With all its flaws and ridiculous plots of Brad Wesley and Dalton live across from each other on the lake, and like they're for some odd reason like
can't meet up.
I didn't love how the house blows up at one point, and he yells at Brad Wesley "F you," but he doesn't go over to kill him. Like he's like, I can't go over there. That's not my property. I can't go over there.
Oh yeah, dude, come on, man, you're trespassing.
But it's one of those like it's such a dated movie, and now you're gonna update it with UFC. Well, why is it called Roadhouse? Why is it called Roadhouse then?
I don't get what the MMA. Okay, like signing Conor, one thing. Okay, I'll just back up like this. When they first pitched like Roadhouse with Jake playing a Swayze kind of character and Conor's in it, fine. I just thought Conor was going to come into that universe. They were going to do the usual bar security thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when I found out like he's going to be an MMA fighter and then he's fighting in the UFC. Like, I don't.
Yeah, really is there a double deuce in this thing? Like,
just bringing Conor in, the movie doesn't automatically have to be about UFC. You know what I mean? Like, Conor can just play a villain in a Roadhouse movie. Like, it doesn't need
the best thing that you do with Conor is not let him talk much and just look intimidating. Because Gyllenhaal's an amazing actor, so he doesn't even belong on the set with him, like acting anyway.
I was just going to ask you what your opinion on Gyllenhaal just as an actor outside
but
of
like
this.
The whole idea of like 5,000 up front. This is 1989. 5,000 up front, 500 a night. Like, how much were you charging your drinks back then? There's no way you could afford to have him there. It just made no sense. He bought a car because he knew the tires were going to get slashed. Well, why didn't he say, give me a ride too, so I don't have to worry about it? There was so many.
Buy new tires?
Dumb. Like, Roadhouse is so dumb. That's why it's great. So you're going to try to make it serious? I don't get it. And, like, dude, you don't replay Swayze. You just don't. Anything that Swayze's touched, you don't. Okay,
so on that comment, I was talking about how I'm PXF's resident Point Break fanboy. I have never watched the Point Break remake. I have a strict Loren policy on that. I shall never watch the Point Break remake.
Don't watch
it. Point Break. Point Break is Swayze and Keanu Reeves. I don't want to hear about anything else.
I'm glad I had one of the ex-presidents on my I'm friends with John Philbin. Yeah, that played Nathaniel. Yeah, he was on my podcast. Like, that was like
send me that link. I gotta watch it.
It's freaking wonderful. Yeah, it's like the 5th interview I did, I think. I'll send it to you.
Oh my god, I did not know you did that. I think
so freaking cool. Yeah. Great
I
guy.
love those guys. I love those guys.
mean, Point Break is just gorgeous. The idea of even going back and trying to do that was just there's certain times a movie could be made and then like you can't go back to it.
Era piece.
And I think Roadhouse is like last year I went to Las Vegas, New Mexico, where they filmed Red Dawn. I went to like all the that was another like Swayze class, but they tried to mess with that 10 years ago, and that flopped. I was happy the Magic Bears flopped because there's a certain time you make a movie and you can't bring it back. So I'm surprised that Jake Gyllenhaal signed for this. I really am, because I don't think he needed to take a chance of this magnitude.
Agreed. I know that him and Connor are, sorry guys, I know that him and Connor are friends and they have some personal relationship. I just don't really see how that, like, so Jake's like, hey man, you should make your first film debut with me. By the way, it's a Roadhouse remake. It's like they could have just did any fighting movie, you know, any.
But the word Roadhouse is clearly mean you're a bar bouncer. Like, that's not dated. So what's UFC got? Is he a former fighter that now is a bouncer? That makes no sense if that's what it is.
My theory is he's a bouncer that gets recruited to the league to fight, but that makes no sense either. You know what I mean? So,
is that what it is?
I'm just guessing. I have no idea. I've only seen very little articles. You were saying, guys?
I was just gonna say. So with that being said, I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm probably gonna make Ross have a heart attack on the spot, but it's got to be said. So there's another classic, a very beloved classic, not just for its musical score. You know what I'm gonna say, Ross, that they are remaking, supposedly a modern reimagining of the beloved character. Bill Skarsgård is playing Eric Draven, and that is the Coming Crow remake. So I wondered, what are your thoughts on that then?
They've been talking about that forever, so it finally happened. I think
they finished post. I think they finished their shoot in Prague, if I'm not mistaken, guys. So, and I've been complaining about that for years. I've been ripping on that for years. Ever since they had Jason Momoa attached to it, I've always said it was a bad idea.
I just think,
Skarsgård, great actor.
If you can see here, it's like I got Bruce.
Love Bruce.
I just think of what happened. It's an untouchable. Like, don't
let Brandon live, especially when you get that type of thing happening on set or whatever mid-movie.
You're kind of shoveling shit on his grave, in my eyes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Have you told Loren Warrior, guys?
Have a what? Sorry.
Warrior.
Warrior. Oh, well, I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Warrior. It's a fantastic martial art series.
No, not that one. That's a good film. It's a show on HBO.
It stars Japanese British actor Andrew, and I'm going to butcher his surname, Kohoji. I think he was in the Snake Eyes movie.
It's based on the writings of Bruce Lee. Yeah. It doesn't. Don't worry. It doesn't have Bruce as a character or any of that fruity stuff that other movies do. But it's just. I think it's based on maybe fiction or some sort of writing that Bruce did, and they developed it into a whole kung fu action series. It's very good.
Yeah. No, that's intriguing to me.
Turn of the century, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Amazing fights, amazing action. I don't know how much you watch martial arts. I assume you do action movies.
No, actually, the worst film you could try to make me watch is any action. Like the Expendables. I can't do it.
Don't watch 4. You'll kill yourself. You can see our roast on 4. It's an abomination.
It's crazy. What I watch is like a lot of YouTube stuff, but it's documentaries and like a movie like Magnolia or American Honey. That's like the type of movies I like watching, like real life stuff. Yeah. Where like action is like, what are you gonna do differently? Like
for
what?
Sure. I think Warrior gives you something different because it's that turn of the century San Francisco backdrop. It's more of a error piece, as Gaz just said. But then there's all the factions against each other, and the combat sequences are excellent.
Yeah. I have to disappear before we turn the page on this Roadhouse thing and show something. All right, just give me 12 seconds.
Okay.
It's so worth it.
I have another one on Roadhouse too.
Yeah.
Loren the Play, everybody. Follow him on Facebook. Follow social media. Average Superstar TV on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely go do that, folks. Anybody out there, if you want to pop some questions to Loren as well, feel free to put them in the chat and we will shoot those questions over to you. I just want to give a big shout out to y'all. Thank you for joining us.
JC Petty is coming here because of me. Ask anybody, they'll tell you. Loren's a savage.
I saw this shirt and I almost pooped. I was like, I'll pay any price for this.
So I get like that when with some of the novelty items. Loren, crossover universe behind the scenes trivia. There's that line in Point Break that Keanu has about Charlie's Roadhouse, and it's a reference to Roadhouse It's been a while since I looked this up, but I believe it's a reference to Roadhouse being in the Point Break universe. It's something like that.
Really?
Yeah, it's on. If you look up Point Break trivia, he says something about like it's like a reference to a diner, but it's talking about a roadhouse, and it's some reference. Oh, it's Patrick's Roadhouse, I think they call it. So it's supposed to be a reference to Twins.
Yeah. So we talk about, and then he ends up at Tower Records and he buys CDs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's a crossover trivia reference there.
Yeah.
Isn't that sick? Roadhouse and Point Break, baby. So you always got the Swayze Keanu fanboys.
Well, man, I did not understand that Patrick's Roadhouse. I never thought of that.
I always like what, because he names like three places, and it always struck me. I'm like, dude, it sounds like he's referencing like road. And so I looked it up on the IMDb trivia, and they said that's what it is.
It won't affect you and I because we love Point Break so much. You've got to see Movie Pitch on Point Break because, oh my gosh, there were so many.
I think I watched them all. Yeah, I think I watched them all.
Oh, he crucified it, and he was right. Everything he said.
Well, when they do the jump and they're holding on to each other's hands and they're talking, I mean, you can't hear each other talking when you're skydiving, so you can't have a conversation. But he's like, the way they shot this is believable, but he's like, I'm pretty sure you can't hear anything when you're skydiving.
He goes, then they're gonna run through a neighborhood, but no one locks their door.
And he kicks the dog, and the dude throws a boat.
The dog doesn't attack him; he attacks Keanu.
Keanu kicks the dog.
He's like, wait, he's a famous quarterback and he's an FBI agent? This isn't the smartest thing.
Dude, we would love to interview your friend for the ex-president if he has any interest. I'm sure.
I'll see if I'll forward it. I'll send you my link. But he's a good dude. Yeah, he's surf. Like it's like his thing.
The actress as well, Ross. You know who Loren met as a ring announcer in the wrestling.
Sure.
So a while back, Loren, here in San Diego, they do some film type events at the theater, and Peter Iliff and the other writer of Point Break came down. And they did Q&A. They were screening Prayer for the Roller Boys, which they also made.
Beautiful movie.
And Point Break. They screened them both. I missed Prayer for the Roller Boys, but I did end up watching it.
Whose idea was, like, I love that movie so much. I thought it was like a great idea of what our future could possibly be and the way things have been right now. What like the country could go bankrupt. But whose idea was that? Like,
okay, so let me not butcher this. So I'm very familiar with Peter Iliff because I was fortunate enough to ask him a question at the Q&A. But him and his boy, they're best friends. They wrote Point Break together. That other dude who wrote Point Break with him, if I'm not butchering this, I believe I'm correct, he directed Prayer for the Roller Boys. So it's that same two writing team from Point Break.
That was like
Rich King.
That movie was so like current, and I was happy to see because after King got in trouble. But it was like a beautifully shot movie, nothing cheesy, nothing like low budget on it. That was tight, and I liked the whole idea. I really wanted a Gary Lee versus Griffin battle in the sequel. This never happened.
Yeah. No, so I was like, they played the trailer, and obviously, as I said 20 times already, I'm a Point Break fanboy, and I was like, I'd never heard of Prayer for the Roller Boys. I'm like, what movie is this? That looks awesome.
The song in that by King Swamp too is in the movie trailer. Yeah, King Swamp.
Yeah, I'm like, this is totally up my alley. So we got to do the Q&A, which was epic, and then me and my brother went and watched it after. Obviously, you were talking about Feldman earlier, so Corey Haim is Griffin, the lead in Prayer for the Roller Boys. But we were both blown away because we're big 90s Grindhouse fanboys. I was like, dude, this movie was awesome.
It was the same time.
I was like, how did we not hear about this? This was amazing.
So when I was such a fan of them, when I found out that movie was going to be on HBO at 9:00, I don't have HBO. I literally gave my a friend a videotape, and I asked the family, they're like, what are you doing at 9:00? And you have to watch what was on the TV. You couldn't flick around. So they taped it for me. They hung out in their back porch and it gave me the tape after.
Would be funny if they switched around the channels.
Just a pivotal moment as well.
It was like that, Fast Getaway, and the Dream Machine came out around the same time, and they were stronger indie movies for like Corey coming up after.
For
before,
sure. No, Corey,
before crappy stuff came up, like Double Kid and stuff. You know, you're like,
for sure. No, I thought Corey. I mean, of course, I said Lost Boys earlier, but I thought Corey was epic in Prayer.
Yeah.
So this is the question I actually asked Peter about. Are you familiar with the story about how when Point Break first got picked up, it was a Ridley Scott production, and they had those oh God, who I think it was Wahlberg, and I'm forgetting who now, but they had a couple other leads. They
wanted Johnny Depp for him, and then they also wanted Patrick Swayze possibly to play Johnny Utah. And when you read the script, he goes, "I feel more."
He wanted, yeah. But they had totally other leads. I think it was Wahlberg, and I think it's on Wikipedia anyway. You guys can look it up.
Because Keanu was Ted, and they were just like, they're like, you gotta give this guy a shot. They're like, you got to give the guy.
No, it's amazing. So it was always, again, I'm a Scott fanboy as well, so it was always interesting to me. I was like, what the hell would that Ridley Scott Point Break I think it was like 5 years earlier or something like that. So it was like maybe mid 80s, but I was like, what would that have looked like? I just wonder in my head, because obviously you have James Cameron's wife at the time, Catherine Bigelow, directing. So I don't know. Gotta love Point Break, guys. And check out that review on Loren's channel, because I'm going to be checking that out. So
Utah, give me 2.
Yeah. Utah, 2 of the best meatball subs I've ever had.
Guys, I don't know if we're done here, but thank you so much for taking it. Marketing is so huge right now. Like, I need to get on as many of these could. I've already one. So, but yeah, everyone, please, if you can hit a subscribe button on YouTube, Average Superstar TV. You could also watch a lot of behind the scenes stuff from everything I've ever done, to Dark Military trailers, all my podcasts, all the Pennsylvania hardcore interviews, everything to do with my film festivals, and other interviews with me. So, but Dark Military Rogue, and for all you Halloweeners right now that are looking for searching stuff up, you can watch the Dark Military free on Tubi, Zumo, Movieplex. There's a few others out there, but that they're not as popular. But please check it out. It means a lot to me.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
No, it's been great to talk to you after all these years, man. I know we've obviously interviewed you in the past, but it was on our radio shows. But now we've actually done it on a video.
Yeah, that was like 9 years ago. Like
man, long time.
10 years old next year. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's still one of my favorites, and I always remember getting so hyper at the time when we first interviewed you, because we were interviewing lots of underground hip hop heads, and okay, yes, I like underground hip hop as well. But I remember saying to Ross, yes, at long last, there's someone else who likes hardcore. I was like, man, somebody knows what I actually like.
I listen to metal and all that stuff, as you guys know, but he kept sending me the flyers like, dude, Pennsylvania hardcore, this is going to be the one. And I was like, I got, one of my best friends is from Philly, so I spent time out there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check it out.
So all I did, he was getting that every day. It was like, forget anyone else. Like, this is just the best show ever because somebody likes hardcore. And that's why I opened up the show today, just because I still am in that scene, follow it, and I wanted everyone to know that connection as well. Of course, no Dark Military, but I wanted to get that in there on Pennsylvania hardcore, because hardcore is just so good. There's one band I want to quickly recommend to you, actually, Loren, and I think they're from Jersey, and they are called Gel. I think they've just got back from a UK tour. They are pretty damn good, quite raw as well. Great hardcore band. I did have another question for you, just a real quick one. And it's a loaded one. I'm not going to break habit. So you mentioned
your favorite Marvel movie. Okay.
No. You mentioned earlier. You mentioned earlier about kind of the wokeness, and I just wondered, do you feel that's got in the way of creativity in movies, that people sometimes are a bit scared because they're upset of offending anyone, and that's hindering that vision?
The problem is with the woke, but there's a lot. But the number one thing was, you're supposed to have the freedom to think differently, and now you're being piled on. Like if you don't agree with them. So basically, what it comes down to is you could get your woke email of how your new program is. Like, this is what you like, and you have to do this. The whole idea of when the Academy, I love when Richard Dreyfuss struck back at it, but said, like, to qualify for an Oscar, you have to have like so many boxes checked, or you can't. Like, who are they to say that? Like, you're basically saying is it could still be a great movie, but if you don't hit these action beats, we're not even going to look at it. Like wrong.
Exactly.
I think, well, the Dems always pull everything's race. That's always been their MO, and they always bring it up. Most importantly, every 3.5 years when they need the votes, most of all. But I think when you don't gradually start. See, to me, the who was woke before it was hip and it was cool, and I had no problem with it. There was The Walking Dead. They were doing this for 10, 12, 13 years now. They were the first, like, there's the black or the white, like all that, like across the boards. And I was like, cool. And when I was writing the Dark Military too, I had ideas for all that. I'm like, you know what? I want to bring in a black dude with dreadlocks, like musclehead. I was like, I want to bring in this. And then, like, all of a sudden, when you're told, if you guys all go, and I don't know what you guys do in the daytime or anybody else that's listening, but if you had a way you were doing your job, and then you come in the office the next day and they're like, gather around, and it's completely the opposite, and you're going to like it this way, what are you going to do? You're going to get pushback.
Yeah.
You have to gradually give people little steps towards that area, as in hopes they go for it. You just can't slam your hammer down and say, I'm a king, and this is the new way, and that's it. And that, I think, has wrecked Disney. It's hurting Netflix. This Snow White movie is already ruined. It's not called. You might as well call it something else at this point. You know, with everything going on. So I think you've got the pushback. I think you've got a lot of silent people that are afraid to talk. And next year when they vote, they're going to pull the lever the other way, even if they don't like the other side. It's just like
pushing people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
it always goes teeter-totters, you know, too far one way, too far the other way.
And I also always said, for everybody out there, this is the most political I've ever spoken because I try to stay neutral here, but the worst, wimpiest president. This is the worst, wimpiest president we've ever had. Okay, he shouldn't be president, and I will say something nice about the guy. The guy should be retired. Okay, the guy is.
No one will disagree.
Political dummy. He should be retired and enjoying the rest of his life, regardless of any horrible things he's done. But this is the worst, wimpiest president since Jimmy Carter. What happened after Jimmy Carter? 12 years of Republican. Because we tried the soft stuff and it got out of control. And whatever you say about the other side, is there issues there? Absolutely. I have considered myself an independent, but they're also, at least you get real answers. And at least other countries, when we say stop that, they stop. It seems like the Dems are in charge. The door's open from down south or
whatever you want.
Or the Middle East, there's a problem over there. But when the Republicans are in charge, it's just like, there's no war. I'll pull the lever in 2 seconds.
Consequences,
Yeah.
It's a bit like what you were saying earlier with running a film set, and we were talking about running wrestling companies that parallel maintaining discipline.
Wrestling's still production. It's just a live production, you know. Maintaining
a balance, which I feel we've lost. And as you rightly said, Loren, then it pushes people to the other extreme, and then people are like, oh man, we've got these guys in charge now. We're happy now. We want to go back to this. So you get in this cycle. Nothing really gets repaired then or dealt with, because there's been so much damage done. Then the new people who come in, they need good time to even fix that. They count the time they've got, and it's like, we'll vote them out. Get the next thing. It's the same here.
I think film's gonna hit a rebound. I think. How could I explain this? I think we're going to go into what, like, the delusion of what the 80s was. Like we're going to have, like, harmless movies, like One Crazy Summer. I think we're going to kind of go towards that direction. And then, like, what happened in the 90s, we kicked the door down and everything got all serious. I think when we're fighting this much, you need to pull that kind of 80s lever and kind of get things a little bit more calm, a little more dialed back. You know, and then that's where I think, like, when the grunge broke through and all that, it's like, no one wants to clap their hands and say, like, rock and roll and stuff anymore. But so you kind of have to find an equal balance. But
Great.
I think between Repubs and Dems, I just kind of think there's going to have to be I don't know why I say third party, but like I could kind of see things shifting because those generations on both sides of the old people are dying. This from natural causes
and outdated ideology as well.
It's the same here, yeah.
And I just kind of wonder, like the government has too much power, and like everybody acts so like they're so. Are you us as citizens? We need you don't hear this, but we need to relax too and change. Like you can't. I know people that through Biden, through Trump, through Obama, through Bush, it's their fault. Their life's in shambles, but you don't go out and get a job and you live in your parents'
never
place.
change anything for your own circumstances.
Yeah.
None of that affects you if you don't change.
There's a lot of citizens that need to start taking more pride. I'm seeing bad parenting, that we have a bad generation of kids where I work, where they're 30 and they're still living home with their parents, and that's okay. When I would have been highly embarrassed if that was going on. And like when they call out of work, their mom and dad at age 30 or some even at 40 calls them out of work. And we're having it's too relaxed. And sorry, folks, but the country was built on hard work, largely through the Italians, largely through the Irish. Every building you see in town, we're pride. And we're more worried about like outing, like white shaming and stuff of that president did this and did that. Well, okay, that they did. That's nothing new. Everybody, me, you, everybody listening, like you can sit there and accuse anything of other people being bad, but like we all know there's a couple doors in ourselves we don't want anyone ever to know about because we're sorrowful and shamed of it. So we got to like relax and stop judging the past and worrying about our freaking future of now.
Together.
Yeah. How about focusing on the present to build a future as opposed to let's argue about what has happened before us forever, you know?
I think but I also kind of like, I think it's very bad, but I also think this is no different than the 60s. Like the hippies, like, They stormed everything and all that, and it was like, oh, make love, not war. Well, now it's just like, don't do that. I have this too now. Like that's
with TikTok.
The backlash of the internet. To just focus on how Gaz's question started there, where you're alluding to of the errors of the 80s, 90s, and the film development. How about the 70s when Taxi Driver came out? And I use that as a segue to, what's the point of the grindhouse genre, which are the darkest chapters of horror, action, sci-fi, that supposedly is going to have no limits. How could you go forward to make those grindhouse films in a woke future?
Good question.
So,
I think someone is going to do that, and they're not going to be able to cancel it. And I think it's going to reopen the floodgates the same way. There's going to be one comedian that goes on a live show, and he roasts everybody across the boards from black, white, the transgender,
all sides.
And when the backlash push, I think everyone's gonna be like the dog that got out in the backyard. Like everyone's gonna be like, "Yo, it was a freaking joke. Relax." Like, And I think the shift's gonna shift back the other way.
For sure.
Dark
Military Rogue people. We've done an extended, in-depth deep dive.
Yeah,
Actor,
awesome.
writer, director.
Edit down anything you need.
No, all good, man. All good.
There's no censorship here. It's a grindhouse channel. We just told you.
Yeah.
PXF, Loren Lepre, Gaz Fed Up, Ross G. Get us on Twitter. Head over to Average Superstar TV. Subscribe. Check out the Dark Military Rogue. And
I'm on Instagram, and that's the name you see there, Loren W. Lepre. I'm Instagram and Facebook only.
Get him on his socials, folks. Appreciate your time, sir. We'll have you back soon. We'll be talking.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, man. Thanks for joining us, bro. I was really appreciated.
Congrats on the film.
You got it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Peace out, Loren.
Boom. There you have it. That was 4 with him, you were saying, right, guys? So we including our legacy shows.
Yeah. That might even be the 5th because Loren came on our show many times on the radio show. So yeah, I might be the 5th. Possibly 4th or 5th.
So many we can't remember how many times we've had you, Loren. You'll be back, Chief Horror Correspondent. Subscribe, check out Dark Military Rogue on Average Superstar TV. Subscribe, give it a like, give it a share on your socials. It does make a big difference, guys. Dark Military 1 on Tubi. Find Loren everywhere. Of course, I'm going to be checking out Terrifier. Of course, I'm going to be checking out his interviews with the Point Break actor from the ex-presidents. Zodiac Files episode 4 coming soon. Killers of the Flower Moon review coming soon. That's basically all we have scheduled right now, guys, right?
I just want to give people a couple of things I'm doing on Fed Up this week to follow on with the indie film theme. I'm going to be doing an interview with Jeff Burton, pretty much one of the writers and people involved with Ophelia, I'll probably butchered the pronunciation. It is an indie horror short. It is on YouTube. So check that out. I'm usually on every day with bands. So don't forget to head over to Fed Up. Subscribe and you see everything we're doing. Ross is on there as well. You know, we stream on both channels with whatever content we feel fits each channel or multi-stream. So there we go, folks.
Yes, absolutely. Our second multi-stream. So subscribe to Gaz's channel below, Fed Up, and then the Twitch Fed Up Vodcast is Gaz as well over on Twitch. We'll get to my Twitch down the line, but yeah, Zodiac Files episode 4 coming soon, guys. That's basically it for now. We'll tune in with you guys next time. PXF Film Interviews Volume 1, Loren Lepre. We are out. Like, sub, share. Thank you for everyone who tuned in.
1.